across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good afternoon to you. Thank you to Ian Collins. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk Drive is on until 7 o'clock. So much to talk about. And as ever, as we start a brand new week on the home of free speech and common sense, we want you to be involved. The A-team are back. Well, for one day only, because Ryan's off again tomorrow to Marbella. He says for a wedding. I think he's having an operation. I won't go into too much detail. I can't. But Jodie is here. 0344 499 1000. 0344 499 1000 is the only telephone number you need in the next 3 hours. You can, of course, WhatsApp us on that number. Send a voice note to Ryan saying, off on holiday again, you lazy git. 0344 499 1000. And we're not scraping the barrel. We're reaching at the top. We've got Dirty Dave pushing the buttons today. He knows what he's doing. He's on the business. And we would love, by the way, your text messages 87222. Do please start your message with the word talk. Been listening to some amazing output today. Was listening to Mike this morning, into Julia, and there's two stories that are dominating, obviously, today. One is, well, Hamas claiming victory after Labour and its wonderful Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer recognise a Palestinian state. I don't know what your view on this is. I think it's complete virtue signaling. You've got the Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy saying it'll make absolutely no sense whatsoever. And Hamas has declared victory for the justice of our cause. I understand that people are very emotive about this subject, but here's the facts from just my point of view. It's apparently, you know, not one that's shared by everybody, but quite a few people. When I was brought up, I thought you weren't supposed to negotiate with terrorists. What message is he sending? He's sending the usual message that he hasn't got the cojones to stand up and do the right thing. He's got so many people that he tries to please the whole time, Starmer, and in my humble opinion, all he does is upset all the people all the time. That is a massive, massive story. Love to know what you think of that. 0344 499 1000. We'll go into detail later about that. Also, reform today. Nigel Farage standing up and saying that they're going to toughen the welfare system for migrants and deport thousands. This has attracted massive, massive interest. And as Ian Collins just said, probably the first politician in our history to actually stand up and say what a lot of people have been concerned about. There are grey areas, and we'll talk to somebody in a sec about that, but he's basically pledged today to ban all foreign nationals from claiming benefits and scrap permanent resident rights in a move he says will save Britain from bankruptcy. Nigel and Zia Youssef have said that this could save up to £250,000, and the United Kingdom should not be the world's food bank. This is supported by many. Everybody's come up on the left and gone, this is absolutely outrageous. What are we talking about? What's going to happen to people? I would say respectfully, it comes back to something I've said every single day whilst I've sat here, right? The world has changed. 10 years ago, if you mentioned the word immigration on a radio television show, you'd have been axed. This country has always done the right thing, morally, financially. Right now, whether it's the pandemic, whether it's energy, whether it's just, I don't know, this country is skint. It cannot afford the interest on the debts that it owes. And we're still opening the floodgates to people who come to this country. They don't work, they don't provide, they scam a system that is not tough in any way. They bring dependence, and that's in itself not been looked at for years. But now your indigenous population are missing out, and people are going, this isn't fair. And that's what Nigel Farage was trying to say. Let's take a look at what he said earlier. This is him describing how he would toughen up the welfare system for migrants.
We will abolish indefinite leave to remain as a category in this country. The 800,000 people that will get indefinite leave to remain unless this policy is revoked tend to be young, tend to be low-skilled. They are going to be a huge burden on the state. What we do know is that 1 in 6 claimants of universal credit alone today, 1 in 6 is a foreign-born national.
1 in 6 claimants of benefits in the United Kingdom in 2025 is a foreign-born national. We say a very good afternoon on Drive to Zia Youssef, Head of Doge and Chief Policy. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm all right. We both look better than we did the last time we saw each other. Zia, thank you for the time this afternoon. I want to start slightly differently. Obviously, when you make an announcement, as Nigel Farage did today, people will jump up and down. I'd like you, because there's a couple of questions that people have sent in already. What I'd like you to do is explain in detail this indefinite leave to remain and the 5 years and all of that, because I've had people say to me already today, what, so if I've been here 20 years and I work and I've done everything right, I'm going to be thrown out? Is this going to be like America? How would you, Zia, put it in layman's terms for people listening and watching right now?
Yeah, sure. So people can come here to the degree they come here legally, then they will be on a work visa, and after a certain number of years, currently it's 5 years, they get to apply for something called indefinite leave to remain. That's not a citizen yet. That comes later. But what ILR gives you, what indefinite leave to remain gives you, is basically unlimited access to our welfare state for the rest of your life. This is the fundamental issue. And then you can apply to become a British citizen after that. So what we are saying is we are going to abolish this ILR status altogether. We will replace it with a 5-year renewable work visa, which is something lots of countries like America, like Singapore, like the UAE, countries that attract great people from all over the world, that's what they do. And one of the key points here is, here's the fundamentals of what we've announced today, as Nigel said. Number one, welfare in this country will only be available to UK citizens when Nigel's the Prime Minister. That's number one. Number two, we will ensure that those migrants who are in this country, number one, pay their way, number two, speak English, and number three, do not commit crime. The fact that this is considered remotely controversial, is a function of this state of decay, malaise, and betrayal that this country has had inflicted on it by the political class for decades. So that is the only way that we are going to be able to avert what we're calling this Boris way. Boris let in 3.8 million people, over 90%, about 96% of them were non-EU, and this was legally. They were just talking about legal migration. The majority of these people are not working and never will work, and they are very young relative to historic migrant cohorts. And they are, in the coming years, going to be eligible for this ILR status, at which point they can bring even more dependents with them. And that is the line item that is going to cost north of £250 billion. The true number is going to be much bigger. The government deliberately hide data around foreign nationals using our NHS and state pensions and PIP and all of those things. So this is a £250 billion fiscal disaster inflicted on this country by Boris Johnson and the Tories that Nigel, as Prime Minister, will be able to avert by taking the bold action we're talking about today. It is insane that British taxpayers, people watching this show, listening to this show, are paying every day for Britain to be a food bank for the world. If you are a migrant in this country, you must pay your way, speak English, and not commit crime.
See, when you explain it like that, and I think I wanted to do it that way for a reason. I've read a lot on it myself today. I mean, I've said repeatedly, Zia, that there's... To me, it seems that we're at a very important, a seminal point in our history, because we've always, as I said in the introduction, done the right thing. And I've always been proud that Britain's done the right thing, sometimes perhaps more than it should have, but we've got to a situation where we are skinned. As a country, we are skinned. And when you are as soft as we appear to be on the international stage, when the pull is so great, then you have an issue, but you have an even bigger issue when you're indigenous population, and people get really angry when I say that, but I keep saying it until they throw me off. When your indigenous population is then suffering. I heard a story this morning from a lady who works for me who's got 2 kids. She's a single mum. She's worked for 25 years. She's brought these children up. She works as a landscape gardener. She's a grafter, right? Her son's a really good rugby player, and at some point over the last week or so had quite a bad injury to his back, to his tailbone, and his doctor sent him for an X-ray. I won't name the hospital or tell you where it is. He was there for 7 hours. The hospital was rammed with people, freely admitted that many of them were migrants and had just come over. This is a fact. It's by the coast. People know I live by the coast. He was eventually sent home after 7.5 hours and told, we don't have the facility to do this for you. You will either come back in a week or a month, or you'll have to go private. Now, I don't care who you are, and I don't care how the left attack me. Why should that woman pay her taxes and pay her NI and live her life correctly and never break the law, and her son miss out? And yet, when you say that to the left, they go, oh, you don't know what it's like to live in Eritrea. Well, I'm 100% behind what you said. Come to this country, build a business, employ people, pay tax, learn to embrace our customs, our language, but don't come to this country because we are a soft touch, that you can knowingly take advantage to the detriment of people who have been born here. That's not rocket science, is it, Zia?
Not at all. And the fact, again, that what we're announcing today, that migrants, to the degree they're coming here legally, should speak English, more than pay their way and not commit crime, is remotely controversial. It underscores the point you're just making. And that's a heart-wrenching story that you've just laid out there. We hear this time and time and time again from people. You know, I could go to education, where in Wales, for example, in the great nation of Wales, the educational attainment of 15-year-olds is below the OECD average and below countries like Turkey, to whom the British taxpayer sends tens of millions of pounds of foreign aid every year. And, you know, as Nigel just said in that clip, 1 in 6 claimants of universal credit in this country last year were foreign nationals. We don't know the number in terms of claiming on NHS. We don't know the number on PIP. We don't know the number on state pensions. We don't know the numbers in adult social care. Why? Because the government, first the Tories and now Labour, deliberately hide these numbers from us. And if
let me read you.
It would be a catastrophe for them.
I got a couple of questions. Let me read you something that came out online earlier. I won't say where it's come from. This person said it can be difficult to cut through the noise nowadays, but just to be clear, Farage is proposing to deport people who have been granted permanent residency in the UK unless they can speak professional English and earn higher wages. He will be deporting people you know and love. That is what we're up against. Your response to that, Zia?
Well, what we're saying is we're abolishing this concept of ILR to the degree people have been here a long time. You know, the previous question, you gave the example of someone who's been here 20 years and contributed. They should apply for citizenship. You know, there's a path to citizenship. They would get citizenship. That's fine. And they should do that. And if they value being here, then I think it's a reasonable expectation that they do that. We are going to introduce a work visa that is renewable every 5 years, so long as you continue to qualify and meet the criteria. But yet, no apologies for this. The average salary will be meaningfully higher. We will be looking at your criminal record. We will be looking at your financial conduct, and we will look at whether you speak English to a proper standard. If you're interested in how ridiculous the current standard of English required for getting one of these ILRs, you know, look it up online. It's comical. It's like what you'd have learned in foreign language classes when you were 11 years old. So we have to tighten this up. If we are going to be a serious country and stand tall on the world stage and ultimately be a country that can give foreign aid and do all of these things again, we've got to look after our own people first. And we make no apologies for this. You know, most of the questions in the Q&A with the press today after the press conference were giving us, you know, human stories of this person or that person, almost all of whom, by the way, would be absolutely fine under our new arrangements. Not one question about the plight of British people who are toiling, working 2 jobs to look after their kids.
But that's my point. So
I'm buckling under the pressure of the tax rises, and we're going to see in this next Labour budget more back-breaking tax rises for British people to pay for this food.
That's the point, by the way. And that's the point. You're absolutely spot on. I always on this show repeatedly say the population is struggling. They've paid for 50 years. They can't see a doctor. They can't see a dentist. They can't get anything at all. And the left will always say, but you don't know what it's like to live in a war-torn country, to which I always say and get slaughtered for, France isn't a war-torn country. Couple more things. You make a really good point. I took my show years ago to America, 2011, 2012, 2013. A renewable work visa. Trying to get a visa for the United States of America, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, is a complete and utter nightmare. But it's a process you go through.
That's for someone like yourself, who's obviously coming to work, doing a high level of work. I don't know what you're earning, but it's probably a decent amount of money. But you still, you know, you couldn't bring 12 dependents, could you? You didn't get access to all of their welfare systems.
Had to go through it to bring the kids and my then wife, all of that. It was difficult. So I don't see that. What I'd love to know, though, and this is, again, what a lot of people have said, we've looked at America and everybody jumps up and down about ICE, and Trump has had a major impact on what's happened in terms of the southern border, but people get offended about all of that. How do you envisage making this work? Let me give you a scenario that a couple of people have texted in already, and I think it's an important point to put to you. So you've got people in this country who have been here under the indefinite leave to remain. They've settled, they're on benefits, they've had children. Those children are in primary schools. How do you deal with that scenario, Zia?
Well, the way you deal with this, if you're being serious, which we are, is we've got to look at priorities, right? So we've already announced our plan to deport people who are in this country illegally. You're talking about people who are here legally. So the first point is UK Deportation Command, which will be the new agency that Nigel creates when he's Prime Minister, will focus on, you know, not on 12-year-old children initially, clearly. It's going to be the 27-year-old Afghan who has come here illegally, right? That's where they're going to be 27-year-old male Afghan that they're going to focus on, which, by the way, the vast majority of Afghans who come to this country are, in fact, men. We all know that. And people listen to the show know that. So it's a question of priorities. The second point I would make is once you withdraw the benefits, once you say no more benefits for those foreign nationals, they either got to start working or that, you know, there's really no other option for them. A lot of these people will leave of their own accord. Human beings, they adhere to incentives. Right now, we have the most attractive, generous, ridiculously over-the-top generous program. As I said, it really is not an exaggeration to say it's a food bank for the world.
And it's just really interesting what you...
Let's take that away. Let's take that away, and a lot of these people will leave of their own accord. But we're going to be really clear. In terms of the deportation command team, they're going to have to focus in those initial years on the people who have come here via small boat, who are largely... But
what you would understand, we've both got a job to do. What if these... I take your point, by the way, because I think if the pull is so great, people will always come. I've said for as long as I can remember that for me the deterrent is to make it less attractive and to say you will be stopped from landing, you'll be taken to a detention centre, which won't be like a four-star hotel, because I'm sure as eggs is eggs here, the message will get back to wherever these people are coming from, like it's now done with America, that we're not a soft touch. My next question would be, over the years or over the months or whatever, what about the people who won't leave voluntarily? You get stuck with legal issues. Will they be forcibly removed? Will they be deported? That's an important question as well.
Yeah, look, we make no apologies for saying this. Yes, of course, there are going to be priorities for deportation command. This country hasn't basically enforced its borders, has not enforced immigration law for decades. So it's going to be something of a shock to the system to actually have an immigration policy that is actually enforced. Of course, we're going to start with those military-age males that come from the places like Iran and Iraq and Syria that make up the majority of the small boat arrivals. But yeah, look, we've been very clear about this. If you are no longer in the country legally, we will enforce immigration law, we will enforce our borders, and you can expect to be deported. This is perfectly normal in almost every other country on the planet, by the way. The fact that you're even asking me this question, and I know you're asking in good faith because it's been put to you, is a function of the ridiculous learned helplessness that has been drummed into British people. They're told, you can't have a border at all because of international human rights law. We can't stop these dinghies full of unarmed men, despite spending about 15, 20 billion quid a year on a Royal Navy. You can't enforce immigration policy because it's impossible to actually remove people and send them back to the countries from which they came. Every single one of those claims is demonstrably false, and Reform are going to prove that when they're in government.
Listen, I agree, and you're right. I'm asking the question because I get really fed up. Everybody knows that I voted Reform. I make no apologies for that. I get fed up when I read these sound bites that will grab hold of something and then trash the whole thing, because I'm utterly convinced that if you asked a majority of people in this country, they are fed up. They feel there's the silent majority. They've been trashed. It'll be very interesting.
Can I just say one thing, though?
Yeah, go.
Just very quickly on that. If you stop the benefits from going to them and they're not in free hotel accommodations, that is already half the battle, just to be clear, right? Like that is the most important thing we need to stop first and foremost, because it is one thing to ask British taxpayers to take more of their money because we need better service or whatever. That's one thing. But making that demand of British people who have made enormous sacrifices, you look through history, people in the world have made greater sacrifices in terms of needs than the British people. But asking them to make those sacrifices while giving a free food bank for the whole world and free accommodation. By the way, we've only been talking about legal migrants here. We haven't talked about the...
But Zia, I would actually go further. Not only have we bent over backwards for years, not only are we going to have our taxes imposed to a greater degree to pay for this ludicrous situation, but, and my thing I go on about the whole time is, if a person who's paid their stamp, lived their lives correctly, never asked for a handout, seemingly in the United Kingdom in 2025, goes to try and get some genuine help, like the kid last night in the hospital, back of the queue, doesn't wash with the population, doesn't. Just one other thing. I know you're a busy man and we appreciate the time. You said in the midst of that, we want to stand tall on the world stage. Let's say Nigel Farage had been in number 10 today or over the weekend. Can you please respond to Sakir Starmer, who over the weekend announced that he's recognising the Palestinian state. Critics will say this is virtue signalling. Lammy's already stood up and gone, it's going to make absolutely no difference. Actually, have we got a couple of clips? Have you got those clips? I hope you don't mind. I want to play this to you. So Sir Keir Starmer stands up and says, we're recognising Palestine. This is what his deputy, David Lammy, said. If we could play that, please.
You want to recognise an independent state, but you're telling that independent state who its leaders should be. I think we used to call that a colony.
No. One, let us not confuse the Palestinian people with Hamas.
No,
two, let us recognise...
The question is, who's in government? Are you saying that you will not recognise the Palestinian state if Hamas is part of government? Or are you saying it doesn't matter who's in government? And you will recognise them come what may?
Trevor, your viewers know that we are some significant distance from two states.
Which begs me to ask the question, Zia, and I've got one more for you, there's a reason for this, is what is the motivation if it's not virtue signalling? Because in my mind, that's what it is. But my concern is, having done this, we've got the most extraordinary clip, I don't know if you've seen this, from a Birmingham Muslim Council leader who says that this is what the British government should do to Israel now that Keir Starmer has recognised a Palestinian state. Just watch this.
Is it going to make an impact on Israel? I don't think so. I think Israel has ignored all laws which govern all of us, right? It's violated every single rule in the book. Is it going to make any difference to them? Probably not. And they're going to carry on killing in their thousands. And I think, if anything, the Western government needs to wake up and it needs to take military action against these guys.
Sia Youssef, please respond to those two clips, if you'd be so kind.
Yeah, well, look, number one, even though David Lammy is an appalling media performer generally, the reason he was so stumped there is because obviously this whole thing is virtue signalling. It is clear that, number one, as Nigel said this morning, all this does is reward Hamas. That is crystal clear. And Hamas, in its founding charter, and anyone who really cares about long-lasting peace in the region, as we do at Reform, as Nigel does, will know that Hamas's founding charter literally says that Israel is illegitimate, has no right to exist, and should be obliterated from the map. And it's also abundantly clear Keir Starmer's never taken part in a serious negotiation and come out on the other side. Why would he? He's been a human rights lawyer throughout his whole career. If you're actually... Again, if you care about long-lasting peace in the region, which we do, then that element of Palestinian statehood was one of the most fundamental things, probably the single biggest thing that you have as an incentive to get the Palestinian side to make whatever concessions were necessary to get to that peace. So the biggest catastrophe of all of this is that even if the people behind this decision were motivated with good intentions, all they have done is made peace less likely as a result of this. So long as Hamas, who again could end the war tomorrow by releasing those hostages, so long as Hamas, who in their founding charter object to the very right of Israel to exist at all, there cannot be a lasting peace in the Middle East. And it is obvious, which is why David Lammy was squirming, that there can be that this whole thing was a virtue signalling exercise. Really good to speak to you, my friend. I know you've had a manic day, but we appreciate you taking time on Talk Drive. Good to speak to you. Zia Youssef, Head of Doge and Chief Policy there at Reform UK, 4:25. Loads to get your teeth into today. Reform vow to toughen the welfare system for migrants and deport thousands. Farage says it's about time we had somebody in number 10 who's not scared to put the British people first. I'd love your thoughts on that. 0344 499 1000. Also, that story, Palestine. Hamas today claiming victory, they say, when Sir Keir Starmer recognised a Palestinian state that gave justice to our cause. Now, I could be wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I thought that they are a terrorist organisation funded by the mad mullahs of Iran. I am not, by the way, before you jump on the bandwagon, all the do-gooders, saying that I like in any way what I see happening in Gaza. And there are certain things about the Israeli state that many of us would criticise.
I'd like to point out, though, in the Middle East that Israel's the only democratically elected government. It's not financed by those mad mullahs in Iran. My point is this. He talked about it there, Zia Yusuf. Look at Hamas's charter. Their aim is to obliterate the Jewish people. It's a really, really, really tenuous subject. Love to get your thoughts. James Price, former government special advisor, and your calls next on Talk Drive.
The other thing that's absolutely extraordinary about this is that everybody who's there talks, I mean, there's awful things happening in that war. I don't want to deny that. But this won't make one iota of difference to one Palestinian child or individual or so on. It strengthens Hamas's control over the region because they can claim this as a victory internally. So for the ordinary Palestinians, it doesn't do anything either. What good does it do?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 4:30. We're live across the UK. God, that's got you going. Thank you to Zia Yusuf, head of Doge for Reform, talking about Nigel Farage's announcement today. He's going to toughen the welfare system for migrants and deport thousands. If you come to this country and you don't embrace this country, you can't speak English and you don't work, and you can bring all your friends and family to sit on benefits for the rest of your life, it ain't going to work. I pointed out about America. When I went to work in America, the system to get a working visa, right, was hard. So it should be bloody hard. Talk. Why is it that we are footing the legal bills for these illegal migrants? Surely the legal system should be for those that are paid into the system, not those that have come here for a free ride. Hurrah! They should find their own funding to pay for their legal representation in the UK, not sponge off us, says Phil from Essex. Hello to Wayman in County Down. I don't know why I did that. The dictionary definition of indefinite is surely an indication that your stay might not be permanent. You'd think so. I totally agree, says Mark, with the issue of non-UK residents getting welfare, and in general I'm in support of this. There does, though, need to be some nuance, though. For example, I have a friend who has lived and worked in the country for over 30 years. She has had ILR for decades. No kids and never claimed benefits. She didn't apply for residency due to cost and no reason to. Perhaps have a scheme of free applications for residency for people with a track record. That's the point, isn't it? I've sat here day after day and talked about the people people who have given something. I've told you all about the Bangladeshi taxi driver that picks me up. He's been here 40 years with his parents, came with his brothers. He was told to embrace the country, work hard, build a business, appreciate all of that. You shouldn't be able to come to... I don't care what they're going to say to me. You shouldn't be able to come to this country and sit on your arse, right, knowing that you don't have to work because we're going to wipe it for you, especially, by the way, when you're not able to wipe the arses of the British people who've been here all their lives and have paid their taxes. And that's what I'd like a lefty to argue with me about, but they won't. All they do is send out those little messages going, oh, you're a bit right-wing. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'll embrace anybody. You can have anything from me as long as you work as hard as I do. We have an immediate choice. I don't know who said this. Oh, yes, Mick in Wallington. Freedom, security, prosperity, family, low crime or Marxism, control, poverty, open borders, out of control crime and fear. Farage or Starmer. I have to tell you, by the time I think the election comes, I don't think Starmer will be in the game. What the UK government should do is immediately take down the UK government website that tells illegal immigrants what they will receive if they come. Yes, but you see, he won't do that because he wouldn't look like happy. He wouldn't look good in front of his left-wing mates, would he? Simon. Once you stop the benefits and freebies for migrants and illegals, they will stop coming mostly. Also, Britain will save 750 grand a day. We pay the bloody French. Agreed. Barbara in London. I'm a dual US-UK citizen born in the UK. For me to get a US visa for my brother is at least a 10-year wait with no guarantee. Absolutely. Only a limited number of those category visas are available each week or each year. I couldn't agree with you more. 0344 499 1000. We say a very good afternoon to former Government Special Advisor James Price. How are you, sir?
Hello, my friend. Angry about all the horrors in the world as usual, so let's get it on.
I'm glad I didn't speak to you last week. I just happened to mention to Harry Cole that one day I might stand as an MP and the papers went nuts. Ridiculous. I thought, yes, but if I do, I'll take JP with me. We all know the truth. Buddy, where do I start? Let's start with Farage today. He has vowed to ban all foreign nationals from claiming benefits and scrap permanent residency rights in a move that he says will save this country from bankruptcy. Up jumped the left wing. This is outrageous. Anybody with colour who's been here is going to be deported. It's an outrage. You might have heard me speak to Zia Yusuf. I asked him about kids. I asked him about how they would enforce this, how long it's going to take, the legal ramifications. What's your views on this whole thing?
Yeah, well, as ever, the devil will be in the detail, and I haven't seen if Reform have put out a fully kind of detailed and costed plan, and so there's always the potential for criticism of them there. But by and large, I think this is almost exactly right. The so-called Boris wave, and I will use that term because I do think it was Boris Johnson either taking his eye off the ball or deliberately letting the floodgates open. There have been some accusations against Boris that he just wanted the Financial Times and the other left-wing newspapers to like him again, and that's why he was going to let, in hordes of immigrants, and that the Australian-style points system and all the rest of it was completely disastrous, probably the worst, as Robert Jenrick has said, the worst public policy decision of his lifetime, and I would completely agree with that. I think for most people at home, they'll be sitting thinking they must have misheard the radio or the YouTube channel or whatever, and thinking, well, hang on, we give benefits to foreign people in this country. Yep. Yeah, we do. Not just the foreign aid budget that we send abroad, which is supposed to be aimed at the most vulnerable people in the world, people living in actual extreme poverty. But for some reason, we have a large number of foreign people who've somehow got in either legally or illegally or whatever channel it has been, English channel or other channel by that word, and are now claiming benefits. I think people will be scratching their heads, and you see more and more stories now, people going, I don't want to cause a fuss, but I've worked all my life, and I look over the road and I see people who never work a day in their life with a much higher standard of living than I have. I think people would be very right to be very, very angry.
And can I jump in for a reason? And that is my point. There is not a racist bone in my body. And I can sit here and say that. There isn't, right? But what I absolutely will fight against until the end of time is exactly, James Price, what you just said. If you are saying to the indigenous population, you might have heard my example about the woman who works for me, her son in the hospital last night, got sent home after 7 hours, can't have an x-ray. Place was full of migrants, I won't tell you where. She said it was full of men. The woman behind the counter said it. Rammed, couldn't see him, you'll have to go private or come back in a month. If you are saying to hard-working people who've never asked for jack, who've paid their tax and have never committed a crime, do you know what? what, thanks for living your life well, but you can sod off and you can be 3 miles back. It doesn't wash in the end, James, and it doesn't matter whether it's Conservative or Reform, or don't even get me on that clown at the Liberal Democrats. Jesus God. The fact is, people have had enough, and I don't believe that those people are far right, and I don't believe those people are inspired by what they're all called fascists or Nazis. I think that's lazy. I think it's inaccurate. I think the silent majority are finding their voice, and I support them for that. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely right. I think we just have to put into some kind of historical perspective how out of the ordinary things are right now. I've had my criticisms of Zia Yusuf, by the way, but he was bang on just then when he said that this would be completely mental in any other country in the world, the idea that we give out huge amounts of benefits and all the rest to foreigners. The fact that when someone is here on a visa and they commit a crime, they are not kicked out immediately on the next plane to who cares where, right? You do that in any other country in the world, you're gone straight away. And this idea that this whole thing of indefinite leave to remain, ILR, I think it is a tricky topic, because you do want to have some of the best people from around the world moving here. If Elon Musk said,
of course, but not people who are going to come here, abuse a system that is as weak as anything, not speak English, not embrace our culture, bring their dependents, and basically, to the detriment of British people, cause poverty. Now, I'm not doubling your fee, but I'm going to ask you to wait, because I want to bring you back. We want to do a double take with you, if that's all right, JP. We're going to go to a break. The legend, with his very impressively crested chairs, is back in 3.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back at it, 20 to 5. We're back with James Price. James, before we move on to Palestine, because I want some minutes on that, you talked about Boris there, the Boris wave. He let the country down, didn't he? I mean, this can be put firmly at the Tories' door in a major way, to be fair, very quickly, yes?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I think it was a sort of reaction. It happened around the world. I think it was a misreaction to the COVID spending of thinking, we've raised these massive bills of furlough and all the rest of it, and similar schemes in other countries. I know what we'll do. We'll just juice the economy back going again with this, because it's easier and quicker in the short term with the way that the economy is looked at. GDP goes up when the number of people you have go up, but your GDP per capita, which is to say how much wealthier people are per person, or the country is per person, doesn't go higher just because you import huge numbers of people from around the world, and we got that all wrong.
Good man. The other main news story today, and again, this just creates such discussion. Hamas has declared victory for the justice of our cause after Sir Keir Starmer yesterday announced that Britain would recognise a Palestinian statehood. Sir Keir insisted the move, one of the most significant shifts in British foreign policy in decades, was not a reward for Hamas, but a senior Hamas official claimed it represented a victory for Palestinian rights and the justice of our cause and would send a clear message. Zia Youssef said if you look at the scroll and the basis of what Hamas are, behind that is, of course, they're a terrorist organisation to obliterate the Jewish state. Couple of things for you. We had David Lammy, we played that clip. He couldn't do anything other than say it was virtue signalling. My concern is many things, but actually, did you see the clip with the Birmingham community leader? This is a gentleman who says that yesterday's announcement didn't go far enough. Have a listen to this, gang.
Is it going to make an impact on Israel? I don't think so. I think Israel has ignored all laws which govern all of us, right? It's violated every single rule in the book. Is it going to make any difference to them? Probably not. And they're going to carry on killing in their thousands. And I think, if anything, the Western government needs to wake up and it needs to take military action against these guys.
James Price, your response, my friend?
I'm going to have to choose my words quite carefully because of the anger I feel about all of this. I mean, Starmer, who has had obviously the most unsuccessful first year of any prime minister ever, he's continually trying to both distract from his many failings by these sorts of foreign escapades, and then in this one in particular, to try and pretend that this is some good, noble, decent thing that he's trying to do to bring peace, when we all can see that this is the complete opposite, because this is rewarding terrorist behavior. What would happen if we decided, if they blow up another Manchester arena, like happened in Manchester a few years ago, that we give them Manchester? Is that what you propose to do to terrorists? You propose to give them bits of New York if they go and fly more planes into it? No, of course not. This is absolutely disgusting, outrageous, and disgraceful. It's much worse than virtue signalling. It means that Jews in this country, I think, are going to feel even less safe, and Sadiq Khan having the gall to try and celebrate or wish Jews in this country a Rosh Hashanah.
Well, wait. I don't want to usurp you, but what you've just said, and I can see the anger in your face, which is, I share it. I'm trying to steer a line here. I don't believe that there is anything tangibly authentic about Sir Keir Starmer, and I'll give you. He's just posted this on X, and this sums up for me what a weasel. He'll go left, he'll go right, he'll do whatever. As we welcome the arrival of Rosh Hashanah, I extend my warmest wishes, said Keir Starmer, to Jewish communities across the UK and around the world. This sacred moment invites us to pause, to consider the years gone by and to look ahead with hope and resolve. It's a time for renewal, for family and for faith. Yet we do so with a heavy heart while hostages are still held by Hamas. I reaffirm my unwavering commitment to peace and to the return of those still cruelly held. At a time when anti-Semitism and intolerance persist, let me be clear. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community. We will always challenge hate. We will always champion the values of inclusion, dignity and respect. May this new year bring you and your loved ones peace, health and sweetness. I'm sorry, I don't believe a word the man says, Jay.
I think we better talk about something else before I start swearing live on air. I mean, he really is just an unbelievably disgraceful little weasel of a man. To have the barefaced gall to come out and say this kind of stuff after what he's done, after saying it's good that, you know, it's perfectly fine that this disgusting terrorist organisation that still holds dozens of people hostage, there were Brits and Americans down there and many others as well, and say, oh no, it's all mean about Netanyahu and all the rest of it. Why is that? Because there are millions of people in this country who've been let into this country in recent years and decades for whom conflicts thousands and thousands of miles away matter more than anything else, and he is worried that those people are not going to be voting for Labour anymore. They're going to be voting for the mad Your Party under Jeremy Corbyn, or how many parties that splits into, or they could often vote for the Green Party, whose deputy leader Mothin Ali bullied a rabbi into hiding with death threats, him and his family, and has still never apologised for it. And people will go and vote for them rather than Labour. And I think we have such a deep sickness in this country, and instead of trying to pull in the doctors, Keir Starmer is making it much worse, and I don't know how he sleeps at night.
Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen you more angry, and I share that anger. I really do appreciate it. On a more light-hearted note, lovely crest on the chairs, dear boy. Lovely crest on the chairs. I know, but don't worry, as your hair gets longer and that moustache gets fluffier, we will keep at it, my friend. I've decided, don't get your hair cut until we've got rid of Starmer. What do you say?
Oh God, I'll end up like Samson. I'll be strong, but I'll be tripping over my luscious locks. No, he's got to go pretty soon, but I'm afraid that the mullet is going to go as well at the weekend.
Love you, mate. Thank you so much indeed for being on. The excellent James Price there, former government special advisor. 10 to 5. No, it's just gone quarter to 5. I'm ahead of myself. It's been said many times. Coming next, God. You might have seen the story over the weekend about Fergie. On the one hand, some years ago, saying I want nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein, he's horrible, dirty paedophile, and then a week later sending a private email saying, thanks for helping me out financially. I only said it because I was forced to. She's been axed when we arrived on air with one charity. It's now at 4. Adding to that Harry has been briefing, or his people have, against the King again, or against his brother William. Only one person to speak to. We're live in LA Next with Kinsey Schofield on Talk.
I hate to say it, Julia, we discussed this before. We've got leaders in our democracies who don't know how to threaten and use force, and they don't understand the logic of deterrence. More importantly, they don't think like Russians. They think like Westerners. So they think, what would deter us? OK, we'll do that. Russians don't think like that. I was listening to a lecture by a Russian general, and I speak Russian, speaking to a staff course a while ago, and a general was asked by a student, how are we going to solve Ukraine? And he simply said, we will throw corpses at it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 10 to 5. We're live across the UK. We'll talk Palestine. We'll talk reform and welfare benefits and migration deportation. But I want to move to the Royals. We'll say a very good afternoon. I was on the phone to her at 7 o'clock this morning. Kinsey Schofield, how are you?
Yes, and now it is, it was 11 o'clock for me then, and now it's 8 a.m. for me now.
You're amazing. My wife said, who are you on to in America? I said, it's Kinsey. I can't say too much. Listen, there's so much I want to talk to you about. I really appreciate you getting up early and everything. Let's start with Fergie. I know Daphne Barak. I know that she was quite close to Fergie with the breast cancer thing. I was pretty amazed when I saw this story at the weekend. She's, as we've come on air, she'd been dropped by one charity, Julia's House. She's now been dropped by a food allergy charity, the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, the Children's Literacy Charity and the Prevent Breast Cancer. 4 charities have cut ties with Sarah Ferguson. This is because it's discovered had done her I hate Jeffrey Epstein, he's a paedophile, and then she sent a private email saying, thank you very much, Steve, for paying off my debts. I love you. I only said it because of this, that and the other. The big question for many people this side of the pond, Sweet, is it time for the King to cut the Yorks adrift for good? Because it would be fair to say it's beyond embarrassing, isn't it?
Yes, but the King is really limited as to what he can do. You know, I mean, what left is there except he could really tell them, I need you guys to get up and move out of Royal Lodge. If he were to pursue stripping Prince Andrew of his titles, there are certain elements of that involve Parliament. And then imagine the headlines, and now you're elevating this story that reflects negatively on the British royal family. He could just take away the prince's HRH, but I'm not even sure that Prince Andrew uses that anymore, or that we would care about that. I just feel like the King's in a really difficult position because there's, kicking a dog when they're down. What's left to do? How else can you punish
over
them?
here there was real anger. They sort of ambushed that funeral the other day for the Duchess of Kent, and you could see anger written all over William's face as Andrew sort of sidled up to him. I don't know, but there's a question that I want to ask you, and we've talked. I mean, Peter Mandelson lost his job as the UK ambassador to the States over links to Epstein. Donald Trump has sort of flat-batted it. It begs the question, I was talking to somebody on the way in, how many people did this disgusting human being have in his pocket, be it with money or favours or trips or whatever we've heard about Clinton? I mean, it must be causing a huge number of incredibly famous, important, well-known people to be shaking in their boots on a daily basis. I mean, it's an extraordinary story.
It is, and I think you really get a better understanding of how he had these people wrapped around his finger if you read that email from Fergie. She is so overly apologetic, and you're just thinking, what exactly, why is it so important to maintain this relationship with this man? Why are you trying to flatter this man? I mean, I do think it's important that I say that Fergie's team have claimed that she had to write this email because he was threatening to sue her. Now, that is what her team says in justification for it. But really, you're way that she words, this gigantic error of judgment. I was advised, she said, I was advised under no certain terms not to speak with you or email you. I'd be causing more problems for myself. Just all of these excuses.
I've sort of, in my head, and I know Fergie, right? In my head, for a long time, I've sort of given her the benefit of the doubt. But when I saw Daphne Barak turn on her and feel that she'd been lied to and duped, I don't think the future is particularly bright for the Duke and Duchess of York. Can I bring you on to the other main news story? We seem to have a problem with the feed, but we've got your voice anyway, my darling. Harry pitches up at Clarence House, has a 54-minute meeting, goes off to Ukraine, big smiles, lots of charity, everything's great. It's all about my dad next year. A couple of articles in the paper on Saturday going, King's really keen to reforge a relationship with the prodigal son. He's getting really, really hacked off. That's English for off with William. William doesn't work hard enough. William's all about family. That makes King Charles feel rotten because he wasn't a good father, all of this. And then you hear the King has made it absolutely clear that the Duke of Sussex cannot be a half-in, half-out member of the royal family. The monarch, who met his son, will continue to uphold the late Queen's wish that members of the royal family do not undertake official duties whilst also earning money. It is understood that Father and son may meet privately on an occasional basis now that the Duke has appeared to draw a line under his high-profile public criticisms of the monarchy. Now his Home Office security hearing is over, but he will never be permitted to join the royal family in any official public role. I would believe that those articles I read on Saturday are the very reason why I'll never get back in the royal family, because I would suggest it would be his side briefing again and not keeping his mouth shut. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right. I mean, it's the same journalist that had the scoop that Harry and Meghan were meeting with Harry and Meghan's communications team was privately meeting with King Charles's team, and we got those glorious paparazzi shots. But what really ticked me off, I've already forgot the term you used, was that a source told the Daily Mail in this particular article that Harry's visit to the UK was not about trying to show off or compete with his brother, Prince William. In fact, it was to remind William that Harry can be there to take some of the load off. And again, going into the criticism of William for carrying out less numbers of engagements than his father. We don't need you, Prince Harry. And there are palace sources that spoke to both the Telegraph and Rebecca English at the Daily Mail, who's separate to this individual that wrote this piece, that said, Harry is trying to create more problems between his brother, Prince William, and King Charles. And I truly believe this. I'm under the opinion, I'm in the team that believes that this is Harry trying to stir the you-know-what pot, because we don't need him there to support Prince William. Prince Harry is a liability.
You made your bed, lie in it.
Yeah, we can't trust that he won't sell secrets, because it looks like he has in the last few weeks. Maybe he hasn't monetized off of them, but certainly for popularity, I think he's there's been some trash for cash when it comes to like Us Weekly saying that the King and Prince Harry held each other and cried during their meeting. He's refusing to take accountability, like when he tells The Guardian that his conscience is clear. This is not somebody you want on your team. He's not a team player. He's a liability. I don't think he's an asset to the family. I believe he's a threat.
A lot of people saying, we've only got a minute and a half, that William was very annoyed that he met his father and annoyed that he's rushing around doing these charity things with a smile on his face, and making the other point that William spends too much time advocating being a father and a family, and that's designed to rub King Charles's nose in it. I'll stick my colours on the mast. I think that Prince William and his wife Catherine will save the British monarchy, and I think they'll be a fantastic king or queen. And like you, I don't think there's any place for that. I just don't trust him. I don't trust Harry. I'm not even talking about her.
No, oh gosh, no. No, and I think it's really unfair to do this to Prince William. In 2024, he spent time dodging the most vile online abuse thrown at his wife, and worried every day as to whether or not his children were going to grow up without a mother, which is something he personally experienced. His wife was dealing with cancer privately and then publicly, and even publicly, she was still hounded by the American media, TMZ hiding in the bushes. Give this guy a break. And he doesn't know when he's going to wake up and be king. So if he wants to take some time to enjoy his small children, for the love of God, let him wake up and enjoy his small children.
We're glad you woke up. We love having you on. Thank you so much indeed. Kinsey Schofield live from LA. It's almost 5 o'clock. We're live across the UK. The news on Talk is next, and more of it calls after the news.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 5 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. It is Monday afternoon on the home of free speech and common sense, and three main stories just dominating today. Reform say, under Nigel Farage's premiership, they would toughen the welfare system. People coming to this country illegally cannot and will not get benefits. They can't come here, not work, not speak English and bring their dependents. It's not happening anymore. He's putting British people first. It's been criticised. It's been lauded. We'd love your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Text as ever, 87222. On the back of announcing that he's recognising a Palestinian state, today Keir Starmer has written on X the most gushing, sickly... well, listen, as we welcome the arrival of Rosh Hashanah, I extend my warmest wishes to Jewish communities across the UK and around the world. This sacred moment invites us to pause, to consider the year gone by and to look ahead with hope and resolve. It's a time for renewal, family and faith. Did you do the right thing or the wrong thing? 0344 499 1000. You heard Kinsey there talking about the York, Sarah Ferguson. Wouldn't be called York, would you? Whilst we've been on air, has been cut. Three more charities have cut ties with her after the Epstein email. This is because 10 years ago she came out and said, look, I was friends with him. He's a disgusting human being, vile. At the weekend, Daphne Barak broke the exclusive story that 10 days after that, Fergie wrote a gushing private email to the very same Jeffrey Epstein saying, I'm sorry, I only did it because people were having a go at me. Do you believe her? Is there any space for her and the Duke of York left in the royal family? What about Harry? 0344 499 1000. Loads of text messages to get through. Voice note. Dan, go.
Remember when Starmer said the grown-ups are in charge? Well, let's be clear. Reform's policy today, announcing on welfare cuts and migration, that's the grown-ups. That's the grown-ups that stood up and told the country exactly where our problems lie. It may be grim, but at least they're honest. It's something that the Conservative government and now Labour have failed miserably on.
Listen, so many people responding. 87222. Hello to Luke, who says, well done, Zia and Reform. It's common sense, Jez. I work in construction and so many cannot speak any English that work on sites with me, yet somehow it's not considered a health and safety issue in an industry with the highest death rate. Yeah, I wear shorts in 35-degree temperature and it's an issue. I get told off or removed from the site. Bring on Nigel as PM. It can't bloody well come soon enough, Tim says. Listening to you and Zia, Reform are winning because he's just speaking about and saying the things we're all thinking. Zarina, Zia Yusuf suggested that taking away benefits for migrants will cause them to leave. I would suggest that it would cause them to delve further into criminality. Terry in Slough, in my opinion, only Reform can put the great back into Britain. Hello to Alison in Billericay. She says, send the British Army into Israel and they will be obliterated. What a complete dimwit. Yes, well, there you go. Heather, I'm with you, Jez. I voted Reform because I believe what Nigel Farage is saying about the state of our country and the mess we are in. And I want hope and faith because we are losing hope. Good afternoon to Pete and Croydon. Jez, being forced... It's interesting. Being forced into a private consultation with a gastric doctor, he advised the GP to put me on a 2-week urgent rule to rule out cancer instead of a NHS face-to-face consultant. Back of the queue, telephone appointment. What did I do wrong? Oh, yes, I paid my tax for years and years and years. So many people. Bill, I see Starmer's not going to the UN next week. Cooper and Lammy filling in. Do you think he's keeping out of the way of the president? Maybe. Who's that? Oh, somebody in the southwest Wales, Hillis. I don't know. I can't express the anger and disgusting anger I feel after hearing the text from Starmer. How can his wife stand to be near him? Such a shame we no longer have treason laws. Lovely. I have to say that the Palestine decision by Keir Starmer over the weekend has fueled probably the biggest debate ever on this station. What happened was, as we all know, he decided, along with other countries in the world, to recognise the Palestinian state. On the back of that, a lot of people are saying it's virtue signalling. We saw Lammy, his deputy, on Sky at the weekend, not really... Well, he almost admitted that it's not going to make any difference. A lot of critics are saying that you've done two things, Starmer. You've not only given credence to Hamas and their terrorist cause, you've disrespected millions and millions of Jewish people. This afternoon, Hamas declared victory for the justice of their cause. But I just want to read this email because it's brilliant. Jez, a few questions about Palestine statehood recognition. I'm a lawyer. What are its borders? What is its capital? Who is its head of government? Are its citizens now refugees? Until now, Palestinians have been treated as refugees and thus qualified for a lot of international assistance and aid. Now that they have their own state, they cannot any longer be considered refugees. This clown Starmer has done nothing but reward Hamas for the massacre of Jews on October the 7th. We're delighted to be joined now by Jake Wallace-Simmons, author and columnist, a man who wrote the author of Israel Phobia, the newest version of the oldest hatred, and what to do about it. A very good afternoon, Jake. How are you?
Good afternoon. Very well.
I'm glad we have an expert, because it's people throwing stuff left, right and centre. I watched that Starmer announcement with the same fear and loathing that I watch so much about this man, because if I believed that he believed that, I'd be all right. I wouldn't agree with it. I don't end up believing that he actually means much, Jake. I think he spends his entire time trying to placate left, right and centre and has very little understanding or vision about where we're going. But this is a massive change in foreign policy, and I don't think shines a particularly bright light on the United Kingdom. Help me out.
I wish I could help you out. Unfortunately, I share your views. I mean, the recognition of statehood, I mean, it would be one thing if it placed some conditions upon the Palestinians. So if it said to them, for example, you've got to force Hamas out, you've got to disarm Hamas, you've got to return the hostages, you've got to fully commit to recognising Israel as a state. That's been done before, but many, many years ago. It could do with reiterating that. You've got to stop paying reward money to terrorists. You've got to stop incitement in schools. I mean, some of these pledges have been sort of half-made, but mostly none of those conditions were placed upon the Palestinians. It's just, here you go, here's a state, on your bike. Clearly, it's not a serious proposition. You know, normally when a state is recognised, it has to cross 4 thresholds for statehood, and none of them have been crossed, as far as I can see, in the Palestinian case. As your email said, there's no established borders, and also the international community insists that Palestine remains occupied. So how can a state be a state and also be occupied at the same time? It doesn't make any legal sense. So really, what we're seeing is really just a political move taken by this government and other governments of Western democracies to try to put pressure on Israel to give up the war and leave Hamas in charge of Gaza and leave its hostages underground. That's pretty unreasonable, don't you think?
Oh, completely. And I listen, I understand it's a very, a very emotive subject. I'm 60, for God's sake. I was brought up by parents who said that you don't negotiate with terrorists, so I've never understood. If you look at the Middle East, and of course the left will say to me repeatedly, I've got 6 kids, I loathe what I see in Gaza. But the fact is, how do you deal with the cancer that is Hamas? How do you deal with terrorist cells who blight people's lives, funded by the mad mullahs of Tehran? That is an absolute fact, whatever the left will say to me. But I thought it was quite interesting what was said earlier, actually, by Zia Youssef. In the charter, Hamas's charter, one of their main aims is to obliterate the Jewish race. And I was trying to explain to somebody at the weekend, I was having this passionate debate over dinner, and they were saying, and I said, I have a really close Jewish friend who explained to me, and I think this is really important, that you know how, maybe it didn't happen to you, I was fishing, I was 12, and the old man walked down the towpath and said, need to talk about the birds and the bees. You know when your parents have to have that chat? He said to me, you have to understand, as a Jewish kid, we had the chat about our DNA from our parents and our history and what it meant to be Jewish. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't like what's happening in Gaza before they jump on me. But if you have been brought up to understand that 6 million of your brethren, of your people, were simply gassed for being who they are, if they're surrounded by terrorists who say, actually, we're going to obliterate you and bomb you to shreds, then it might not look nice, it might not be morally correct, I suppose, but is it not understandable then? And I'm not Netanyahu's biggest fan, but is that ideology, that thought process, not understandable, that you'll do anything and everything to protect yourself? And I also might make the point, which goes down like a lead balloon, that the only democratically elected government in the Middle East just so happens to be the Israeli government, doesn't it?
Absolutely right. I mean, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. As you said, it was attacked by Hamas. I mean, I think that, you know, if we were to apply this to Britain, if we were attacked by, let's say, Islamic State from Wales, just over the border, who came across into England and massacred proportionally more than 1,200 citizens, but let's keep it to 1,200, massacred them, raped them, mutilated their bodies, dragged off hundreds of hostages into Wales, and then promised to do the same thing again and again and again, and hid under civilians, under the ground and in civilian hospitals and so on and so forth. What would we want our government to do? Would we want our government to say, you know what, don't worry, you just keep the hostages, you keep in power over there in Wales, we'll just sit here because we don't want to kill any civilians by mistake? Or would we want our government to go into action to obliterate that Islamic State and to get our people back? I would suggest that we would want the opposite. We would want the latter, rather. We want the latter. We want our government to go and protect us, to get our family members back and obliterate the threat to us on our borders. Now, why can't Israel do the same?
I had a really interesting chat with Jodie, who works on the show, and I thought it was really interesting what she said to me earlier, and I think it's true. There's a slight discrepancy, though, isn't there? Because you've got a government that's now stood up and said it recognises the Palestinian state, presumably, whether it's virtue signalling or he thinks that that's the right thing to do. And yet, if his government had a pair of cojones, would he not stop oil sales of arms to Israel? Because at the end of the day, he's playing with everybody, isn't he? That's the point about Starmer. I said at the beginning of the interview, if he came out and he said, you know what, I abhor Israel, right? I'm stopping all arms sales. I'm totally in with the Palestinians. But this, Jake, is what the weasel put on X. I'm going to have to read this out because it's so stomach-churning. This, ladies and gentlemen, was an hour ago by Keir Starmer. As we welcome the arrival of Rosh Hashanah, I extend my warmest wishes to Jewish communities across the UK and around the world. This sacred moment invites us to pause, to consider the year gone by and to look ahead with hope and resolve. It's a time for renewal, for family and for faith, yet we do so with a heavy heart, whilst hostages are still held by Hamas. I reaffirm my unwavering commitment to peace and to the return of those still cruelly held. At a time when anti-Semitism and intolerance persist, let me be clear, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community. We will always challenge hate and we will always champion the values of inclusion, dignity and respect. May this new year bring you and your loved ones peace, health and sweetness. And listen, I'm no obviously human rights lawyer or Prime Minister, but I look at that and I go, what I said before the election, you've got so many bleeding people in your tent, Starmer, to get elected. You spend your entire time trying to placate the left, the right and the centre, and you end up alienating everybody and not achieving it. And in terms of foreign policy, I think it's it's a totally awful look, isn't it?
Absolutely right. Insofar as I'm concerned, he can take his New Year's greeting and stick it up his recognition. You know, I mean, I think Jews here now in Britain and around the world are not looking forward to the new year with hope, but with fear on account of what he has done. And Hamas, on the other hand, are looking forward to the new year with great boldness and jubilation, having congratulated him openly and celebrated victory as a result of what he has done for them. Starmer, unfortunately, has placed Britain on the side of jihad, on the side of Hamas, on the side of Islamic State, who have a similar ideology, on the side of Al-Qaeda, who have the same ideology. He has placed Britain on the side of those people and not on the side of the only democracy in the Middle East. Since the beginning of the war until now, all that he had to do was join with the other nations of the world and place all the pressure on Hamas to give back the hostages and surrender. If they would have done that, the war would have been over a long time ago, the hostages would be home a long time ago, and there'd be no more bloodshed. But because he's instead placed all the pressure on Israel and only mentioned Hamas as a kind of afterthought, as if they almost don't exist, that has led to more bloodshed, an extension of the war, and into the tragedy that we see unfolding today. And you know how Israel's going to respond to this? It's going to probably annex the West Bank or take retaliatory measures, because it has to, because it can't show Hamas that manipulating the world in this way is going to work. Israel is now fighting a war on several fronts, and unfortunately, we are one of the fronts that it's being forced to contend with as well.
I was watching his speech, and I was watching people saying, you know, what has he done? I'm going to play you a clip. I don't know if you've seen this. If you haven't, good somehow, because I'd like you. I want to see your face. This is extraordinary. So you've got Starmer saying, I recognise the Palestinian state. We've got Hamas this afternoon declaring victory for the justice of our cause. You've got the left saying, this is absolutely important. You know, Netanyahu and Israel, what they're doing in Gaza, which is I don't listen. War ain't. It's awful, right? It's awful. I've got 6 kids. but I always want to bring people back to why this started. But, you know, the argument, there's an argument on both sides. But what frightens me is what you just said. Where does this next go? This is a Birmingham Muslim community leader responding to what Starmer announced yesterday, Jake. Have a watch of this and a listen.
Is it going to make an impact on Israel? I don't think so. I think Israel has ignored...
Right, we're going to have to come back. Just line that up again because the audio's failed. I'd really like Jake to tell me when it's working. We'll have a go. Yeah? We're going to have a go? Go again. So a go.
Is it going to make an impact on Israel? I don't think so. I think Israel has ignored all laws which govern all of us, right? It's violated every single rule in the book. Is it going to make any difference to them? Probably not. And they're going to carry on killing in their thousands. And I think, if anything, the Western government needs to wake up and it needs to take military action against these guys.
Love your response to that, Jake Wallace-Simmons.
Well, unfortunately, this is where the propaganda leads, you know, to such hatred and such topsy-turvy ways of looking at the world. But he's not the first person to have suggested that. You know, a couple of weeks ago, the Spanish Prime Minister, in an official speech, said that he regretted the fact he didn't have nuclear weapons because then he'd be able to stop Israel in Gaza. The Spanish socialist Prime Minister was seeing this alliance through propaganda of the left and the Islamists uniting to destroy the Middle East's only democracy. And why is that? It's because Israel represents the values that represents the West. Now, if you ask that chap you just had on your screen a moment ago, ask him what he thinks of Britain, and ask him what he thinks of the West. Ask any of the people who are taking to the streets in support of Palestine week in, week out, what do you think of Britain? What do you think of the King? What do you think of our way of life and our government and the West in general? They will give you the same answer as they would give to Israel. They hate Israel. They hate us. Israel is simply first in the firing line. If we don't start standing up to these people, then we're going to be next. And unfortunately, Keir Starmer is siding with the enemy against us.
What do you say, very briefly, my friend? It's so good to have you on. I'm sorry for that technical glitch there. What do you say to the people, because it's important I do the job as correctly as I can, who would look at Gaza and look at the suffering and the death and say, this is genocide, this is Netanyahu, this is his ego. I have a degree of sympathy with Jewish people, but Palestine has a right. Hamas are a terrorist organisation who obliterated and treated Palestinian people wrongly. And this is Starmer trying to say, not I support Hamas. This is him saying, I don't like what's going on. What do you say to those people?
I would just say, make 2 points, really. The first one is just beware of the propaganda that you're seeing on social media, on the legacy media and elsewhere. Because what people are trying to do is remove Hamas from the story. So if you have a war with two sides fighting each other, inevitably civilians are going to sadly be caught in the crossfire and killed. That happens in every single war throughout history. But if you take out the army from one side and pretend they don't exist, then all you've got is evidence of a supposed genocide. And that's what people are trying to do. Look on your BBC News this evening, watch the scenes from Gaza, and see all the suffering. Do you see any sign of Hamas at all being killed, being wounded, fighting, existing? You don't. Look at the UN genocide report, which that hoax accusing Israel of genocide. Hamas wasn't even mentioned. They're pretending as if it's a one-sided affair. That's the first point I would make. The second point I would make is wars are horrendous. That is why we try not to have them. You know, unfortunately, Hamas started this war. Hamas wants this war to happen. Hamas is a death cult that wants death as much as possible, not just on the Israeli side, but also on its own side, because it knows that it will create the pictures that people will see that will change hearts and minds against Israel and lead to the international community ganging up against Israel and recognizing a Palestinian state. This is part of Hamas's plan. This is part of Hamas's strategy. It knew that it couldn't beat Israel militarily, but it also knew it could tempt Israel to fight it, put civilians in harm's way as human shields, create the pictures that we're all seeing, and make Israel isolated on the international stage. What we're seeing is Keir Starmer and others finishing what Hamas started on October the 7th.
Really great to have you on, mate. Really appreciate your time. Jake Wallace-Simmons, author and columnist. Great book, by the way, author of Israelophobia, the newest version of the oldest hatred and what to do about it. 5:21, we're live across the UK. Talk Drive is on. Breaking news, the Teenage Cancer Trust has now dropped Sarah, the Duchess of York, as a patron after 35 years following the disclosure of emails in which she described paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein as a supreme friend. A spokesman said she's done. It's the 5th charity to distance themselves from her since that expose in the Mail on Sunday. It's all happening for the Duke of York, the Duchess of York and the Duke of York. Your thoughts on that? Your thoughts of Starmer? I recognise Palestine. I love all the Jewish people. The man in the middle. And reform. If you're a migrant and you've come here illegally, you're not staying, you're not getting any benefits. Shock, horror. They're all calling him a fascist. Back in 3.
I hate to say it, Julia, we discussed this before. We've got leaders in our democracies who don't know how to threaten and use force, and they don't understand the logic of deterrence. More importantly, they don't think like Russians. They think like Westerners. So they think, what would deter us? OK, we'll do that. Russians don't think like that. I was listening to a lecture by a Russian general, and I speak Russian, speaking to a staff course a while ago, and a general was asked by a student, how are we going to solve Ukraine? And he simply said, we will throw corpses at it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 5:25. This is Drive Time on the home of free speech and common sense. Please be involved. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Tim has a voice note. Go.
I cannot believe what you've just read. The Prime Minister recognises Hamas and then says that he's celebrating a Jewish holiday, a Jewish celebration. Like, what is he up to? Like, flip-flop Starmer, classic.
Brilliant. Thanks for letting me know that, Dave. The Prime Minister, Sir Tim, is an absolute joke and an embarrassment to our nation. How can he look in the mirror every day and think he's run the country well? What an absolute plonker of a man. Interesting. Emma says, I think you, like me, would send out congratulations, Jez, to the new Palestinian ambassador, as he named himself today in a ceremony outside their building, joined by Wes Streeting. Please make it stop. Brad in Cambridge, this is interesting. Recognising Palestine, in my opinion, is purely virtue signalling by Starmer and can't be viewed as anything other than rewarding terrorism. terrorism. Starmer is clearly using the situation as a political football to placate his Muslim voters to stop them joining Corbyn. Oh, this is very interesting. And then the whole reform debates come in as well. Who should we go to? I'm going to do a new caller, Jeff in Doncaster. Jeff, a new caller. How are you?
It's nice to see you back, Jeremy. You and the team are doing so well.
Right, wait a minute. Wait. Have you got your radio, your television on, or am I on loudspeaker? Because you sound like you're talking from a biscuit tin.
Oh, turn it up.
Pick your phone up, man.
Can you hear me good, Jeremy?
That's better. Go. Come on. Time is money and I'm skint. Crack on.
Yes, so I want to talk about reform and our old mate Starmer.
Yeah.
I think you'd better go back into Broadmoor, actually. Reform, Jeremy. We need Nigel back in the number 10.
Well, he hasn't been there before, so he won't be going back. What are you saying? Talk to me.
Well, I've heard he's been in there. But, no, everything needs reform now, doesn't it?
Yes. What do you make of his pledge today to toughen the welfare system for illegal migrants and say you're not getting benefits or bringing your family, you're done?
Well, that would be fantastic, actually.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Good man. 0344 41000. I think Jeff was slightly blown out by the whole process. It happens. Julian says, as much as we all want Farage to carry out our wishes, you can bet your bleeding bottom dollar, Jess, that the establishment and its media will do whatever it takes to stop it. The country is being suffocated by dark forces. God, we're getting right into it now, aren't we? Dave H. Wouldn't it be nice if Mr Starmer could achieve something good for a UK cause? Don't be silly. Sally, you're barking mad. Alison Callum. My ex-husband is an American and I had to marry him when he came here 24 years ago or he would have been deported. The place in Croydon makes us go there a couple of times and we're quite strict and vicious. It is just the third world that can flock in when they are of little value. Very outspoken. Ants from Devon. Somebody has to be. Joking. Jezza, great to hear something positive about the migrant situation for Farage. At least he has the guts to put a clear intention on the table. But whilst the intentions are right and sure the UK public support, how will it be done as sure as the country? Nobody's going to roll over and I need more detail. I know he's the man. Yeah, you see, this is going to happen, right? People are going to go, great speech, how are you going to do it? People are going to say, what about the left-wing lawyers? What about all the legal ramifications? I'll tell you one thing I do know. And I could be wrong. Right now, and I've said it before, I think he not only speaks the language that millions of people are listening to. I know it frightens the establishment and the lefties. Whether it's achievable, I don't know. I've asked them all. I've spoken to Zia and Nigel and Richard and Sarah and all, and said, look, you can stand here and say it's going to be easy, but what happens when the machinations of government and the legal ramifications of trying to leave the ECHR and refugee this and refugee that? And they say, you have to have the will. Do they have the will? I hope they have the will. Will it happen? I don't know, but I'll tell you a man who does. He knows everything. Lord Spence of Benedictum, a very good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thank you, Jeremy. How are you?
Which pad are we in now? The London pad, or are we in the country residence? Because I don't see the drapes. I feel you're in some sort of penthouse somewhere.
I'm actually in Cannes, so I'm somewhere completely new today. I'm very sorry. This must come as a great disappointment to you.
Why are you in Cannes?
Why not? It seems as good a time as any.
Are you on holiday? Are you on? Have you taken the yacht down there? You've flown in to meet the yacht and go around.
I'm here for somebody else's wedding. Yeah, that's what I'm on.
You're a bit like Julia Roberts in that song. It's always somebody else's wedding, isn't it?
It is always, isn't it a shame? But there'll be lots of other people there, so that'll be great fun.
That's why you've gone. Single men, I'll tell you another way to pull. Go to the supermarket with a young child that you obviously haven't, a child that you know from somebody. Walk up and down the frozen counter. That's always a good thing. Say to your friends, have you got, I'll take the kid out for half an hour. Very good. I'm just giving you can take one of mine out anytime you want.
Many thanks.
What an afternoon to speak to you. Let's start, if we can. Let's start with Starmer because it's the most recent thing that we've been talking about. So he announces his recognition of the Palestinian state. The left jump up and down and say, this is absolutely fantastic. There's a genocide going on in Gaza. Netanyahu's out of control. Good for you, these poor people. Nobody likes what they're seeing. Hamas come out and say, this is justice, a victory for the justice of our cause. Other people on the right jump up and down and go, You total idiot. What you've done is you've negotiated and given credence to terrorists against an elected democracy. Where do you stand on this, pal?
I think I stand where most sensible people stand on this, which is that it is rewarding terrorism and that it's also practically useless. This doesn't actually change anything. It doesn't make anything better for the Palestinians in Gaza or the West Bank. I think it's very curious that they've decided to do this, given that this is Sakir Starmer, human rights lawyer extraordinaire, because by all accounts, actually, Palestine wouldn't really meet the criteria of statehood under international law anyway. So it does seem to be one of those where he's picking and choosing which international laws he thinks are important and which ones aren't. We all know why he's done this. He's done this because a great big portion of his base, for them, this is a very deeply important thing, which I think speaks rather more to the sectarian nature of British politics now. Increasingly, we're importing foreign causes into our domestic politics, which I don't think is very healthy at all. But practically speaking, it will do nothing. The only countries that really matter in all of this are Israel and the United States, and Israel isn't going to recognize Palestine. The United States isn't going to recognize Palestine. So what does this do? It changes the status, maybe, until a legal challenge is brought, and Starmer gets to go, look, I've righted a historical wrong. And most people will go, all right, so the war's going to stop tomorrow? Oh, no, it's changed nothing? Oh, how about that?
Couldn't agree more. And then this awfully gushing, sickly message on X this afternoon. Have you heard this, or have you been too busy rushing around Cannes looking for a girlfriend? Do you want me to read it?
I've been looking for other people's girlfriends, but sure, read it.
I love him. As we welcome the arrival of Rosh Hashanah, I extend my warmest wishes to Jewish communities across the UK and the world, he wrote this afternoon. This sacred moment invites us all to pause and to consider the years gone by and to look ahead with hope and resolve. It is a time for renewal, for family and for faith, yet we do so with a heavy heart, whilst the hostages are still held by Hamas. I reaffirm my unwavering commitment to peace and to the return of those still cruelly held. At a time when anti-Semitism and intolerance persist, let me be clear. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community. We will always challenge hate, and we will always champion the values of inclusion, dignity and respect. Benedict Spence.
That's a slap in the face to those people to have recognised Palestine in proximity to such an important day for the Jewish people. And, to then just sort of drop that in there, oh, well, it would be really nice. We really hope that the hostages get sent home. You've just basically guaranteed that none of those hostages are going to be released because Hamas will turn around and go, well, it turns out that taking hostages works. We get what we want out of all of this. So it's nice that he's, remembering those people. But I'd be very surprised if many of them got out of Gaza in anything like a good condition. And I think it's frankly pretty disgraceful that he chose this time to make this announcement.
But isn't it interesting, right? We talk about there's specific, we can talk specifically about certain policies. I just want to talk about the man. And I know a lot of people go, oh, you're unnecessarily harsh on Starmer. No, as a Brit, the debacle of the Tory party, you and I were very vocal about. There was no way the British people... They're done, in my opinion, for a long, long time because of the way that they behaved. I don't believe that he won the election. I think the Tories lost it. And as a Brit, when he came in, I just hoped it could be better than it was. The fact that it's infinitely worse frightens me enormously. What I see between you and me, imagine we're sitting having a beer on this, I just see a bloke with absolutely no... How do I put it? I don't understand his direction. I don't understand his motivation. I don't think he's proactive. I don't think he believes in anything. I think he blows different ways. Don't look at me like that, Jodie. I think, honestly, it's a nightmare doing this show. I think he blows with the wind is what I'm basically trying... That didn't sound any good either, but I know where I'm coming from. I think he changes tack so bleeding often to please all the people all the time, that the most fundamental lesson of life is that he ends up hacking off everybody all the time. But I mean, that's a classic. Let's recognise Palestine. Let's slap every Jewish person in the face and think if we've got a message out on X, oh, it's all going to be all right. What a load of tosh.
I think, if anybody thinks that we are unnecessarily harsh or unduly harsh on the Labour Party, Tony Blair and Gordon Brown wouldn't have made these really basic amateur errors. And I think we can all say that wholeheartedly. We know that whatever we might think of their politics, they would not be this bad at politics. And that's what you're saying. Starmer doesn't really appear to have much of an ideological vision. He seems to be entirely beholden to different wings of his party, be it Torsten Bell, be it the backbenchers, be it on the subject of Gaza. He can just, as you say, he can be very flexible, which sometimes in a politician can be a good thing, but not actually if you're a prime minister inheriting an economic and social crisis like he is. You need to be firm, you need a vision. You cannot be seen to be being effectively browbeaten or blackmailed by the prospect of certain backbenchers going, well, Gaza's very important to my constituents, and him then going, oh, well, better recognize Palestine then, because otherwise I might be in trouble with these people. You cannot have a coherent government if you keep on hopping from one thing to the next and being frightened of your own shadow, and that's who he is right now. There is no sense of the stalwart international lawyer. That character, if he ever existed, is not in number 10 right now.
I couldn't agree more. Let's bring you on to the other big news of the day. Nigel Farage has pled to ban all foreign nationals from claiming benefits and scrap permanent residency rights in a move he says will save Britain for bankruptcy. We had Zia Youssef on. He basically put it like this, that people come to this country with no intention of working, no intention of learning the language. They bring their dependents, they live here for years and years and years. And the reason that Reform are being this vocal, and there have been a lot of critics today and a lot of people saying fantastic, is because they are saying, and I've been saying this for a long, long time, we seem to have done right by everybody else for years, Benedict, many times than I've agreed with it. But we are at a seminal moment, I say every day, because we're skint. We can't afford the interest on our debts. And I think a majority, an increasing majority of British people are going, hold on a minute, I've done everything right, and I'm being treated like a second-class citizen. That's why I think, however, and I asked her, what about kids? And I asked about how you're going to enforce this, and I talked about the legal challenges. But what Nigel Farage does is he speaks a language that people are concerned about and interested in because they feel, whether it's the Palestinian thing or benefits or immigration, they feel that their country is slipping away. And I get that. Does that make me, what is it, somebody said to me today, you're a fascist? No, I'm not. Not at all. I just think if you pay into something, you shouldn't be at the back of the bloody queue when it's time to collect.
The average person who throws around the accusation of fascism doesn't know what fascism is. I mean, that's the standard interpretation. Your listeners will know, I have been very critical of Reform for a very long time. I hold them to a very high standard because I feel that if they're going to be muscling in on the traditional parties, they need to be doing better. This intervention, this announcement, and what Zia Youssef in particular said, I think is very welcome, and I think it's finally the sign of a party that is starting to get it. I did worry that they were a little bit hesitant at the start, but this is good. This is positive. What Zia Youssef was saying about the British state existing in a sort of a state of learned helplessness where these things that you've just described happen, and people go, oh, well, there's nothing we can do about that because this law says this and this treaty says that, and, oh, well, it would be very mean. What he's saying about taking this to Parliament, Parliament being sovereign, overturning laws that are not beneficial to the country, actually passing legislation and doing so retroactively, not saying, oh, well, a law was passed once so we can never change it again, understanding how parliamentary democracy works, how that sort of legislature works, and actually using it to make changes. This is positive, this is good, this is not a party that is slightly cautious because it's in unknown territory. It gets the issue, it's grabbing it by the nettle, it's prepared to risk being unpopular, and you know what? That's good. Government should not simply be...
And you know, you've put absolutely so well, and I couldn't put it like you, because I was sat here and 4 times in my interview with him, he said, you know, we don't think this is right. This might be unpopular in some circles, but this is what we're going to do. Nobody with a vision, Thatcher, Blair, whatever, has ever stood up and 100% of people have gone, oh, fantastic, there will always be ever. But it is, in my mind, the first time I've seen a up and say, this is what it's doing. I don't care if I get any for saying it. And I think you're works or it doesn't, whether he gets elected or he doesn't, whether the establishment takes him on and he wins or they win. We're actually seeing a person who's prepared to stand up and put his neck on the line, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And I think that expression, learned helplessness, is what's important here, because for too long, the British state has been supine. It has been lying on its back, going, we can't do anything. Everything is impossible and it's too difficult. People respond positively to proactivity. If you have a politician who says, I've got a way that you can change it, it's actually quite straightforward, and you just need to give me the numbers to do it, people will respond positively. And as you say, sometimes there will be things that they disagree on. But I think everybody can agree right now, the overall picture is that concerning that actually you're prepared to take a bit of the rough to go with the smooth when it comes to actually making these changes. And I think it's very positive that finally Reform is saying, look, we've got a pathway, we know how to do it, and actually we're not going to be put off by, the veiled threats of legal challenges or being called fascist.
Couldn't agree more. Now, obviously, as I continue with the show, I hope the sun is still bursting through in Cannes. I hope you grab yourself a glass of the finest rosé, Whispering Angel probably, and head off into the evening sunset and find Lady Spence at your leisure.
Well, I hope so, or at least 2 or 3. Yeah, maybe.
Excellent, good man. Speak to you soon, Benedict. Thank you very much indeed. What is it, 18 minutes to 6? You were told drive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
5:45, yeah, Mike back tomorrow morning with Morning Glory. Just very quickly, because I just literally found this out. You won't have the still. You'll have heard that Mike and I are doing a one-off show at the Shepherd's Bush Empire on Saturday the 15th of November. They've extended it backwards a bit. There's a few extra tickets available, basically, because all the others have gone. And I'm sick and tired of people in this office saying, can I come? You have to pay for your own tickets, unless you call Jodie and Ryan, Dave, the other woman. No, anyone joking. If you do, go to ticketmaster.com, OK? You can go to my Instagram as well, @JCarlOfficial. There's a few tickets left. We're going down to the theatre tomorrow to make a promo. We'll put that up as well. It's going to be an amazing night. Saturday the 15th of November. Me and the big MG. I don't mean you know what I'm saying. He is the big man. We're going to have a night of madness, and I'm going to give you a little clue. We might start on a beach. That's all I'm saying. I'm not giving too much away, but we might start the show from a beach with a dinghy. 0344, I'm just saying, 0344 499 1000. I'll do Adrian. Jez, let's not kid ourselves or be in any doubt. Starmer is only willing to recognise Palestine because it suits him politically at home. Everyone should just let that sink in for a moment. Our PM is willing to risk emboldening a terrorist organisation for personal political expediency. It's almost impossible to understate the full import of what he's done. Starmer and this Labour government need to go, and for clarity, he's not recognising Palestine in my name. Adrian in Horsham. Thank you, my friend. Tom says, as a Jewish man, today is a very dark day. Keir Starmer and the Labour Party are anti-Semitic. Over 1,000 Jews were assassinated and more Jews were abducted by these so-called Palestinians. Babies burned to death, women raped, other men beheaded. There's still lots of hostages in captivity. Return the prisoners and the war will stop. I stand firmly with Israel and my fellow Jews, says Tom. Hello to Liam Taverner. It's an interesting one. When the charity of world Britain collapses, what the hell will the third world do then? Let's go to Newcastle. Karen, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. You know what? I had a lovely dream the other day that you were going to be a reformed MP for Kenton and Newcastle, and then I woke up and then I found out that Labour was still in power here. So
maybe not for long. You never know.
On a serious note, though, basically, what a slap in the face for those people that died on 7th of October and the ones that lost their loved ones. What a slap in the face. And on New Year's, on a Jewish New Year as well.
Well, don't worry, because he's made a very nice... Yeah, but you don't be too unfair, because Starmer has put a lovely message on X saying that happy Rosh Hashanah to every single Jewish person in the United Kingdom. There it is. That's his statement. You can't
Do we actually believe him now? I think he's told so many lies now, though, Jeremy, that nobody's believing anything that he says now.
He tells all the people all the time exactly what they want to hear. I like what Benedict Spencer... I like what Benedict said just then, Kaz. A politician with a pair, Thatcher, Blair, stands up and says, this is my plan. Not all of you are going to like it. In fact, it might not work brilliantly. In fact, I will be, I'm sure, slagged by many people. But this is what I believe in, and this is what I'm putting in front of you. And if you think we can do that, vote for us. And if you don't, vote for somebody else. Kaz, we love you. Thanks for being on. 12 minutes. Let's do a voice note. Mark in Lancashire, go.
I was just thinking that while all these European nations with their own problems of independent states are sticking their little fingers in the business of Israel, maybe President Netanyahu should recognise the independence of Scotland, the right of a united Ireland, the independence of the Basque Territory, the independence of a Catalonian state, maybe an independent Saxony, and maybe an independent England while we're there, and even an independent Yorkshire. There's a lot in Yorkshire who want to be independent. You know, maybe you should just recognise them all. That'd stir things up a bit, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Let's go to London. It's another Mark, but he's on the phone. Mark, you're on Talk Drive. Good afternoon.
Hello, Jeremy. How you doing, mate? Look, you're going to have to bear with me because I am fuming, absolutely fuming. So I'm going to try and keep my language down. But what the hell is Starmer doing and the rest of Labour? We didn't vote for this, but yet they turn around and go, oh, I know what, let's give Hamas a pat on the back. It's Palestine. How many Hamas is in this country? And Starmer's wife, Rabbi, should ban him for life from the synagogue.
What do you say? What do you say? This is very interesting. Actually, on a light-hearted note, what bird have you got next to you?
African grey.
What?
An African grey.
And is that a parrot?
Yes.
Wouldn't you just love it to go... just where the parrot just went, Jeremy Carl's a load of... Do you know what I mean? It'd be great, wouldn't it? But don't say that.
We're trying to teach it to say that.
I think you should teach it to say, Starmer's a... You know, whatever. No, yeah. Don't worry about it. I didn't say the word. Very quickly, what would you say to the other side of the coin? Hear me out. I'm not a fan of Starmer at all. The people who look at Gaza and the suffering and say that Israel are out of order and committing a genocide. What would you say to those people?
That is a load of absolute two round things that a man has, because the simple reason is there is lorry loads and lorry loads and lorry loads of aid at the border that United Nations have not even picked up yet and taken in.
Everybody has a view. Can I just say you've offended me during this call, because you just said that's a load of the two things that most men have. I've only got one.
Well, yeah, but I'll guarantee you your one is bigger than Starmer's. And as for Khan, I'll tell you what,
calm down, man. He'll be going. They will both be gone in 4 years. Trust me. I'm going to rest my one remaining one. You rest your two. Thank you for... What?
This country will not last 4 years. It won't even last a year with these in power.
Marky, keep the faith. Tell everybody to listen to Talk and we'll keep the fight. This is Talk Drive, 10 to 6.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
5 to 6, quick look at the sport with Alex Shilton. They all say, how's your dad? Are you there? Because I've got two things here. I've got senior content editor, The Sun, and I've got night sports news editor, The Sun.
Oh, both of them, but I think it's the first one, actually.
A very important man, senior content editor. We can talk about just one of see that game yesterday, City and Arsenal?
Certainly did.
I thought that was, I mean, basically to say Bernardo Silva has taken a swipe at UEFA. He's the captain of the Premiership for giving Manchester City a huge disadvantage. They only played on Thursday. I've never seen Pep Guardiola park the bus. No. It looked like he was paying for a draw. I thought Arsenal were very lucky. I thought they had the handbrake on. I'm not a big Arsenal fan because I always feel like they almost get there and then they don't.
Yeah. They've won 5, I think Arteta's record against Liverpool and Man City in the Premier League is just 5 wins from 24 games now.
Against the Big Six.
Yeah, so it suggests that they either don't have the mentality or they're just not being attacking enough. I mean, that's what's been levelled at him recently.
Do you believe the criticism, or do you believe the people who say that if he doesn't win a trophy this year with the squad he's got, they've signed Eze and Madueke, who's got a knee problem, whatever. Do you think that he is on a warning, that he has to win a trophy for Arsenal this year?
I'm not sure he's necessarily on a warning. I think in the summer there would be serious questions asked, given the money they've spent, given how close they've been for a prolonged period of time. If they went through the season with nothing, that's one trophy, which was in his first season in charge, that they'll have won throughout the reign. So.
Yeah. Manchester United beating Chelsea down to 10 men. It wasn't great, to be honest with you. The rain was pouring down, and yet everybody's going, that's a Man United fan, oh, everything's fine. Amorim said this is the beginning of great things. Today they've announced they're going to sign a major goalkeeper next year. That will make the ones here feel really positive. Why do I expect them to lose next week to Burnley or something? Manchester United, what the hell's happened to that team?
They cannot win back-to-back games.
No, they can't.
People keep talking about the system, the 3-4-3. You can understand it. I think it's been underpinned by the goalkeeping issue. We broke the story this afternoon from our new Manchester United correspondent, Samuel Luckhurst, that they want this new keeper.
Mike Mangan's the guy, isn't
he? He's one that they will look at. I mean, they had the chance to sign Emi Martinez, didn't. So they've signed a goalkeeper, but he's not experienced enough. Sene Lamans, and they still haven't decided who's going to be number one, or they don't have a number one, so they're going to be back in the market. It seems extraordinary.
I don't know what it is about that team, and they talk about it's not been the same since Fergie left. They keep even going on about this guy's system. There's some sort of, I don't even know the right word. There's something in that team and in that stadium and in that club that just doesn't gel. Talking about which, the 3 teams that you, me and Ryan support, very quickly, West Ham, I want Potter out. Honestly, my son's 5 and he could teach them how to defend corners. They're a joke. Your team, Villa, what the hell's happened to Aston Villa?
It's rubbish.
It's rubbish.
I mean, West Ham scored a couple of goals, but
luckily.
The only goals Villa are scoring are going straight through goalkeepers' hands. It's been really poor. I think with West Ham, it's got to a point where he is on the brink now.
Yeah,
I suspect it's more a case of sorting out
when, not if.
Yeah, and probably sorting out who's going to replace him, whether that be Nuno, possibly Slaven Bilic, maybe even Sean Dyche.
Don't want him back. Sean Dyche, Nuno. I don't want Bilic back, for God's sake. What's that about? And this happens again and again, and I'll say it, and Ryan goes, oh, he's talking about West Ham again. I said it. Moyes, 6th, 7th, 8th and a European trophy. You idiot West Ham fans who were going on and on about, oh, we want better football. Brilliant. And David Moyes will do a great job at Everton. Massive mistake. Let's take the mickey out of Ryan. Watford fan. Bottom 3 if they lose tonight to Millwall. And does he care? Is he going to the match? No, he's going to Marbella. It's not a true fan.
Sounds like a more fun place to be.
The only good thing about Watford is they haven't changed their manager this week.
No, which is quite incredible given the track record they've got of it. But we'll see how long that lasts.
Are you a golf fan?
A little bit, yeah.
Ryder Cup starts, Bethpage, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I will be stuck to the television. Only 4 times in history if you want away from home. Massive favourites, the Americans, because of Bethpage, because of the American contingent, the fans. Unbelievable preparation by the Europeans. They've been over there 2 weeks. How'd you see it going, briefly, my friend?
It's hard to see the Americans, anyone but the Americans, winning it, I think.
I'm going to go so against you. Go and back Europe to win the Ryder Cup.
It'd be fantastic.
I honestly think that they will they will win. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be something like, 30 points to 28 points? I think it'll be like 15-13 or 14.5, 13.5. Genuinely think the Brits or Europe will sneak it.
It'll be fantastic. I love it. I'm not a major golf fan, but when it becomes a team sport and a bit
Putting
more
one
tribal,
over the Americans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good man. Read The Sun tomorrow. Alex Shilton, senior content editor. He's responsible. That exclusive story about Man United and every bit of sport you need to know in The Sun tomorrow. Stand by, the news at 6 and more on JK's Drive coming up after this. Don't go anywhere because I need you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Couple of minutes past 6. We're live across the United Kingdom. JK on Drive on the home of free speech and common sense. Jeez, what a busy old day. So it started with Nigel Farage standing up and saying, if I become Prime Minister, I'm going to toughen welfare. Migrants and people that come to this country with little or no intention of working, who bring their dependents, sit in their asses for years, are not going to get benefits. They're going to be deported. The left went, oh, my God. Does that mean people who have been here for 20 years? He's racist. He's an outrage. We'd love your thoughts on that. 0344 499 1000. We had Zia Youssef on at 4 who said in basic terms that the fact is that a sixth of our welfare benefit budget is taken up by people who have come to this country and have never, ever worked. How does that work in a situation where a country is skint, where people can't get what they deserve? Also, the other big news of the day is that Keir Starmer had over the weekend announced that we are recognising Palestine as a state. The left went, it's absolutely right. Israel is creating a genocide. All the Jewish people went, hold on a minute. These are terrorists. Why are we negotiating with terrorists? The hostages haven't been released. Hostages, Keir, not sausages, you idiot. Today, Hamas say, interestingly, It's a victory for our cause. Thank you, Keir Starmer. It's a very important victory. But Keir Starmer, in true... Actually, I'm going to wait. A very good evening to Chloe Dobbs, political commentator and lovely lady, dog owner. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
You know, Starmer's biggest criticism from people like you and me is that he spends his entire time trying to please everybody all the time and has absolutely no desire. Unlike Farage, and I'll give you whether you agree with what Farage has said today, like Benedict Spence said, at least he's got his neck on the line and he's standing up and saying something. Starmer does that about Palestine, right, which for many is, I know you're shaking your head. And then, have you not seen what he's posted on X in the last hour? As we welcome the arrival of Rosh Hashanah, I extend my warmest wishes to Jewish communities across the United Kingdom and the world. Put the camera on Chloe Dobbs' face, because this is Keir Starmer all over. This sacred moment invites us to pause, to consider the year gone by, and to look ahead with hope and resolve. It's a time for renewal, for family and for faith, yet we do so with a heavy heart. Whilst hostages are still held by Hamas, I reaffirm my unwavering commitment to peace and to the return of those still cruelly held at a time when anti-Semitism and intolerance persist. Let me be clear. We will always stand shoulder to shoulder with the Jewish community. We will always challenge hate, and we will always champion the values of inclusion, dignity and respect. May this Jewish New Year bring you and your loved ones peace, health and sweetness.
It's just too little too late. You can't just recognise Palestine to clearly just please certain groups and certain voters and then come out with that. And when he put out his really dull 6-minute video of him reading like a robot off an auto cue explaining why he is recognising Palestine as a state, he made an effort to, for the whole sort of first 2/3 of the video, talk about how horrible Hamas are and then say, and therefore we're recognising Palestine as a state. And it really didn't make any sense. But he clearly done that first bit to make it look like he is not in bed with the terrorists. But I mean, the fact that he's recognising the Palestinian state without saying Hamas have to lay down their arms first shows that he doesn't really care about Israel and the Jewish community as much as he claims in statements like that.
I agree, and you know, I'd have more respect for him if that's possible, because I haven't got any. I'd have some respect for him if he stuck his neck on the line and said, I don't care if this is unpopular with half the population. I think this, I think that, and that's what I'm going to give you. But he doesn't, Chloe. What he does is he tries to be all the people all the time. And whether he alienates the Muslim voters, the left of his party, the trade unions, the right, the army, the farmers, the waspy women, he just gets it wrong. I happen to think it's the wrong decision, but I'm being completely honest. I listen to people and I look at those pictures in Gaza and it's appalling. My argument would be this was started on October the 7th, and when you poke the bear of Israel after what they went through 60 years ago, they will make Netanyahu isn't going to stop because of what happened. Now, what we see isn't great. I said it earlier, I thought Jodie, we were talking before the show, made a really good point. You'd respect Starmer, do you know what? If he stood up and he went, yeah, right, I'm recognising Palestine and I'm stopping all arms sales to Israel. I'd go, I don't agree with it, but at least he's putting himself out there. No. I'm going to recognise Palestine because I'm interested in the vote north of Watford Gap. I'm also going to sell some arms, and then I'm going to go to the United Nations to try and do a peace deal. Oh, I'm not going, by the way. I'm sending Lammy. So nothing's going to happen, is it? Because he's going to eat all the food and do nothing. I mean, it's extraordinary to me. It's extraordinary.
I mean, it's a perfect example of somebody trying to please everybody and consequently pleasing nobody. And Starmer has, over the past year, done various things to virtue signal to different groups, and it's just not really clear what he stands for. And when
is he a modern-day appeaser, or is he just out of his depth?
I think both. He's trying to appease certain groups, but he's also got no idea what he is doing. I mean, sort of the two and two go together. He's got no idea what he's doing. The country's going in a terrible direction, so he's putting out these statements and whatnot to appease certain groups to try and cling on as leader of the party. And he's going to have to face party conference very soon and try and speak to his party and try and make clear to them what he stands for.
What does he stand for? That's
the thing is,
let's
nobody knows.
Let's have a little bit of fun, right? It's 6:10. Have we got any prizes? We'll throw something in. Well, I don't know. Nearly said the wrong thing there. Text me 87222. Start your message with the word talk to drive time. What does Keir Starmer... When you think of Keir Starmer, what does he stand for in your mind? What does Keir Starmer stand for? If I said to you, describe Keir Starmer... Right, I'm going to throw it at people out there. Ryan, what does Keir Starmer to you? If I said, what does he stand for, what would you say? Palestine. Jodie, what would you say? Sausages. You see? Don't release the sausages. Dave, what would you say? Muppets. There you are, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. What does Starmer stand for? What about you? What would you say?
A vacuum.
I'd say vacuous. Yeah, absolutely. There's
honestly, I am struggling to think of one thing of what this guy stands for.
I'm so clean.
I mean, you'd
say,
oh, he stands for human rights because he's a human rights lawyer, but then he's tried to do this one in, one out policy where he's got human rights lawyers against him.
1 in, 1 out, 4 million in, none out.
I'm just using his words there, not to say I agree with them.
Also, you know, you talked about that video, and this is really interesting. Get those in, by the way. What does Starmer what word comes to mind when you think of Keir Starmer? 87222.
I just think robot. He's so robotic. He's so wooden. I mean, he put out this 6-minute video to explain why he is recognising Palestine as a state, and he was just reading off a new auto cue, no flair whatsoever.
Hold a second,
I had to put it on 2 times speed to just make my way through it without falling asleep.
Ryan's just said the worst thing I've ever heard on a radio show. I've got a clip of it if you'd like to play. No, I'd rather chew my own toenails if that's all right. No, thank you.
Yeah, the viewership will plummet right down. So
of the 11 that are listening, we'll be down to 3. 87222. Start your message to the word talk. What word springs to mind when you think? What does he stand for in your mind? What is it? What do you think of about Keir Starmer? The other thing is, look at his eyes, and I genuinely mean this. I just think he looks robot. Oh, I see. Thanks. I think he looks like he's almost on autopilot. And while we're on it, I haven't said this all afternoon, but there is some breaking news in the last half an hour, right? Sir Ed Davey. Yes, he's the leader of the Liberal Democrats. They got 72 seats. He rode into his conference dressed as a clown, need I say any more, has announced he won't rule out a coalition with Labour to keep reform out of power. Isn't that the same Liberal Party that traded everything they believed in, including to students, so that they could get into power with David Cameron? Isn't that the same man who was the Minister for the Post Service?
Yeah, I don't know how he stayed as leader after that. I mean, the guy is an absolute joke. Whenever he puts out one of these silly stunts, I mean, we had another one where he says he's reclaiming patriotism, and you know, not to fat shame, but I was not enjoying watching that with his huge beer belly as he was marching along.
See, it's all right for a woman to say he's got a big up. If a man said that about a woman, they'd be all hell to play. Not
tasteful at all. But whenever anyone sees these clips of him doing silly things like that, or hobby horsing or paddleboarding, everyone says, what are your policies? I have no idea what the Lib Dems' policies are.
And if you want to know how screwed up our political system is, they won 72 seats. 72 seats. That's a joke. They're going for it. Starmer robot, Jane in Liverpool. He stands for hypocrisy. I don't know who this is from. The guy's a complete plank. Thank you very much indeed. Rachel Freeman, Starmer stands for himself. Kevin in Tamworth, over-promoted. I love it. Rachel, incompetent git. Heather, he stands for himself. They've made their minds up straight away. 0344 499 1000. Right, Chloe, let's move from Palestine and Starmer and the vacuous nerd I happen to think he is. But if you disagree, get on the phones. Tell me he's a nice man. Come on, bring me Starmer love. No calls.
Doubt you'll find one person.
Let's talk about reform today. Nigel Farage standing up and pledging to ban all foreign nationals from claiming benefits and scrap permanent residency rights in a move he says will save Britain from bankruptcy. Will save a $250 billion, pounds even. He says taxpayers are being hammered to pay for benefits for people to come to this country with no intention of working, to jump in on our public services to the detriment of British people, as well as ensuring that we have to pay more. Now, the left have duly jumped up and down and say, you don't know what it's like to live in Eritrea, and this is racist, and there's going to be people who are here for 20 years, and because of the colour of the skin, they're going to be moved out. I had Zia Yusuf on, and I said to him, how are you going to do this? What about people who have lived there and have children? I thought what he said was very interesting. Benedict Spence, who's not been Reform's biggest fan on just now, and he said, this is the first time, he said, I'd take my hat off to a politician prepared to stand up and actually say, this might be unpopular, but this is what needs doing. What do you make of Nigel Farage's plans today?
Well, I mean, first of all, what Nigel and Zia have announced is complete opposite of Keir Starmer's personality that we've just spoken about, where you've got no idea what he stands for. What makes them so attractive is the fact that they are authentic and they just do what they believe in their hearts, and they think if people don't like it, tough. And, you know, ironically, that's getting them even more support because people see that they're true to what they stand for, because no other politician, you just don't know what
nobody else is going to stand up and say, I'm going to deport or expel hundreds of thousands of migrants.
Yeah, and second of all, this is just common sense. The fact that this is controversial is just baffling to me.
That's what Zia said.
Exactly. It's absolutely baffling that people think that you can just move to any country and expect them to take care of you and give you all of this money and give you all of these benefits. If I decided I wanted to move to, I don't know, Spain,
Eritrea,
I would expect to have to
say
pay.
Spain because Ryan's going there tomorrow.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Lucky sod.
Yeah. Did you say lucky? That's a rude word. Crack on.
Lucky?
I'm joking. Because you said sod. It's a turd, by the way. Turd is a piece of grass. Can we crack on before I start laughing?
What were we saying? The policy. It's common sense, right?
Yeah,
so if I were to move to Spain, I would expect to have to pay for my own healthcare.
Yep.
If I decided to bring up kids there, I wouldn't expect to be given some sort of child benefit. I'd expect to have to pay for their schooling. I'd expect to have to work and contribute taxes.
Why I think
this makes sense.
But that's it. I was talking about when I took my old show to America, and it took months to get visas. An alien with an extraordinary... Honestly, do you know what they call it in America? An alien with an extraordinary ability. This is true, right? To get a V1. It was thousands of pounds and lots of rules. What Reform are saying today is... Well, the left is... It's racist. What about... No. Well, what he's saying is this country is stretched. This country's skint. This country can't afford the interest on its bills. So if your public services are stretched and people that have paid into it are missing out, it doesn't make sense to have people come into this country who shouldn't be here, where they've no intention of working because they know we're going to wipe their backsides and give them money that we can't afford to give them. And the only way that that's going to happen financially is if we increase the tax burden on the British taxpayer who's already paid tax but can't see the doctor or the dentist, whereas migrants can. And if you say that to a lefty, they look at you like you're the worst person in the world. This is absolutely outrageous. This is, I mean, what about these poor people? And what did that idiot Darren Jones say from Labour? I mean, all the people that come over, 90% of the people in boats are women and children. He's obviously, I mean, honestly, and you laugh, but I think it's really important to speak facts. And I'm with you and I'm with Benedict. I think today, at least they put their necks on the line. I said to Zia, what about the legal ramifications, the challenges, the blob, the establishment? And he said, you know, you have to have the will and we will make that happen. I know they're working behind the scenes with lawyers now, but I think right now in this country, I think people want to at least think that somebody wants to try and change the status quo. Even if they don't succeed, I think that is attractive because that's, you don't hear this in media circles, right? But get out there. And there is mass frustration in the United Kingdom. There is.
Yeah, they might fail, but I think a lot of people think if anyone's going to do it, it's these guys because they've actually got tenacity, they've actually got drive.
Businessmen and women.
Yeah, and they will have hurdles. They won't be able to do this overnight. It may take them, say, 6 months to a year to leave the ACHR, change legislation to allow them to go ahead with policies like this. But they're going to try their best to crack on and do it. And just on the finances of it all, we are on the point of bankruptcy in this country. And one thing that Zia said in one of the podcasts he did, I can't remember which one, was he was saying if you have a business that is failing and going bankrupt, the first thing you do is you go through their balance sheet and you go through every single pound that they spend and ruthlessly rule out anything that is not 100% essential. Why aren't we doing that with this country? Why don't governments do that?
That word's interesting of yours, essential. You see, that's where I think we've lost our way. Over many years, and there was a lot of criticism, quite rightly, about Boris Johnson today because this Boris wave happened post-COVID where people were allowed into this country. It's a fact. Millions into this country with lax rules. And you know, I keep saying the same thing, Chloe, and I can't get away from it. I think this has been going on a long time. I think we've always been the country that people turn to. They'll always say it's because I speak English. Fine, great. Although Farage wants you to prove that you can speak English. Now, some people are appalled by that. But if you have people coming to this country who do not want to embrace what this country's about, want to knock it to shreds, take advantage of it and live their own lives in their own communities away from anybody that's been here, what are you talking about? I keep going back to that Thatcher quote from the 80s that goes around on TikTok every now and then when she said if the right honourable gentleman is talking about, you know, people can be able to come to this country irrespective with no intention of working to settle and bring their families and not be sent back, you're talking about international chaos. And I think we've got to a point where we're so wrapped up in trying to do the right thing, it's turned into blatantly the wrong thing. But again, to the detriment of the indigenous they hate it when I say that, all the leftists. Every night they hit me on social media. He said indigenous population. Yeah, I am going to say it because every single person who's lived their life correctly and is missing out in this country, they've paid their tax, they've paid their stamp, is bitter and twisted, and quite rightly so.
Yeah, and where the lefties will get really upset is when you talk about migrants who come here with the intention to just scrounge off the state.
But it's true.
Not
all of them. Not all of them.
Exactly.
Not all of them.
They'll say we're talking about all of them. We're characterising the migrants. We're not.
No.
And the reforms policy reflects that. All you need to do is show that you earn a decent amount of money to be paying in rather than taking out. And speak English. I mean, that should be basic. That if you're going to go, I understand if you move to a country that on day one you might not be perfectly fluent, but if you have been here for years and years and you've got indefinite leave to remain, you'll have had to have been here for years to get that, and you still can't speak our language. I'm sorry, but you have not made enough of an effort to integrate into our society.
But you don't need to integrate into our society if you're. And I'm not being disrespectful, your society is a separate society. My argument is always this, and I use it every day, and I apologise to the 11 people listening. Sometimes from the train home I get this amazing Bangladeshi guy who drives me, and he always tells me the story. He and his dad brought him over 40 years ago with his 2 brothers, and he sat them down and he said, you respect this country, you're grateful to this country, you work hard, you try and build a business and pay your taxes, and we're forever grateful. He is more offended about illegal migration, Chloe, than you and I are, because he did it correctly. And for anybody on the left who thinks that we're talking about people like him, we're not. These people are the lifeblood. It's fantastic. But there is no denying the fact that increasingly in this country, there are people coming here who don't want to work, don't want to embrace our society. You say speak English, I call it embrace our society. Bring their dependents and expect us to give what, sadly now, peeps, we can't afford to give. That's it.
I think that we need to draw a distinction between a multicultural society and a multi-ethnic society. So in the past, Britain was very clear on what it stood for, very clear what its culture was, and you had people from various different ethnicities moving here, but they knew exactly what Britain stood for, and they adhered to our culture. So we were we were becoming a multi-ethnic society, but not necessarily a multicultural society. But now what's happening is Britain isn't proud of itself anymore.
No.
People aren't patriotic because they consider that to be far right, which means that people who are coming here, they're not clear on what we stand for, and there's no real pressure.
Oh, I bet they're clear on one thing: how nice the life can be. I'm being completely serious, and listen, we've worked together for a long time. I've been called a racist in the last 48 hours because I happen to think that it's about time we put the British people first. I make no apology for that. If that's racist, but I'm not the least racist person, and it's ridiculous, that comment.
Well, it's not just you. This country is one of the least racist countries in the world.
I ask myself, why do all the people want to come here if it's so... Right?
Yeah, well, I mean, one reason, if you talk to migrants in places like France, that one of the reasons why they want to come here, I'm not saying this is a valid reason why they want to come here, but it's because still genuinely in places like France, they do suffer from racism. People are racist towards them. We have been one of the most welcoming countries in the world, and just because we've got to a point now where we say, OK, we're oversaturated, we've taken people in so quickly that our own country is struggling to keep up infrastructure-wise and money-wise, we might need to take a step back for a little bit. People are saying we're all racist, but we've been one of the most welcoming societies in the world. We've done a lot to help other people in need and from other countries, and we should be proud of that.
Now, before you go, and we will take lots of voice notes and calls after the break, what does STARMA stand for? 87222, start your message with the word talk, or 0344 499 1000. I picked this story out for you. Gen Z adults, pin back your lugholes, Big Dave, and Jodie, get ready for this. Look at Grandad here. Gen Z adults have sex less often than their parents and even their grandparents currently do, a poll says. Brits aged between 18 and 26 romp on average 36 times a year. That's about 0.7 times a week, so you almost get there and you don't. For Gen Z, aged from 44 to 60, and typically the parents of Gen Zers, it's 62 times a year. That's 1.2 times a week. And for baby boomers, aged 60 to 79. You ready for this? Oh. It was 47 times a year, or 0.9 times a year. Oh, less than parents. But yeah, basically, I'm having more sex than all of you put together. There you are.
Well, I'll happily answer this as somebody who lives like a nun. So
Sorry, Jodie said something rude in my ear. What did you say?
I said, as somebody who lives like a nun, I will happily answer this.
Well, remember
there are possible good reasons and bad reasons why
this isn't serious. It's supposed to be light-hearted.
Oh, well,
you haven't got a bloke. That's
I
the
love
truth.
relationship psychology, so I'd happily talk about it for hours.
One thing you said, you live like a nun. Can I give you a bit of advice?
What?
You can kiss a nun once, you can kiss a nun twice, but don't get in the habit. You see, I think that's a good joke. Do you not think that's a good joke?
No.
Do you think that Gen Z have less sex than me?
Yeah, because they're not in relationships, right? People who aren't in a regular relationship, when you're young, you're still finding your
worrying
person.
about everything. Oh, I'm stressed.
No, so there are some good and bad reasons for this. So some of the bad reasons are that COVID and dating apps have completely destroyed a generation. They're bad at socialising. They're terrified to approach anybody in public.
Why?
To ask
Just
people out
meet a
on
bird
dates.
or a bloke and have some fun.
No, well,
go online and ask if you want to go out for a drink, and I've got to meet you and see if you're the right socially acceptable. Oh, rubbish.
I'd say that one of the good reasons why this is happening
Yes.
is that there is a growing movement of women who have realised that this lie that feminism told them, that sleeping around is liberating and good for them, they've realised that it's actually not good for them, because the reality is men only value them as much as they have to work to get what they want, right? So if a man only has to buy one drink to get full access to a woman's body, they're not going to treat them well, they're not going to buy flowers. They're not going to marry
to get
them.
access to a woman's body. Jodie's going, Jesus.
But young. That's what young women would. They would go on dating apps and they'd meet some guy and then they just hook up with them when they've just met them.
The whole dating app thing frightens me enormously.
I think it's ruined
Do
the
you
whole
date on
generation. No, I used to have them at university and I think they're awful.
Why don't you just meet people? Don't you just walk down the road or come here?
No, see, this is the thing, so the dating apps got people in the habit of thinking I never have to aproach a girl in person because I can just send a message.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, people have no shame whatsoever.
No.
They can be like a, 80-year-old bloke and they'll happily send you messages asking you out on dates, right? But in person, people never approach you.
Right,
They're too terrified, right?
Meanwhile... This is brilliant. I'll tell you why you lot never get sex, and he said the wrong word there. Prunes and all brand cereal are making a surprising comeback amongst the younger generation. A viral craze dubbed fibre-maxing. These staples are now the hottest thing in healthy eating. TikTok influencers are leading the charge, whipping up recipes starring gut-friendly ingredients like chickpeas, chia seeds and, yes, prunes. Yes, I'd just be pooing everywhere. So let me get this straight. The younger generation are eating prunes. They're on the toilet. They can't get themselves a bird or a bloke and they're having no sex. So have a glass of wine, 20 Marlboro Lights, and you get loads of sex. I mean, what is that all about?
Why are you always shaming people that want to eat healthy? You were absolutely dismayed that I had flax seeds and chia seeds in my house and I actually want to take care of my health.
Could I just point out, that sounded like I've been to her house for breakfast and I was slightly shocked that she got chia seeds.
No,
Could we rewind?
Okay.
I'll tell you how nice this girl is, actually, because I've been diagnosed with, whatever, Crohn's, and she was sending me recipes. But chia seeds and all that, why are the younger...
Chia seeds are a
We
great
used to go
superfood.
out, right? We
And
used to
they're
go
a
out and
great
get
source
drunk
of
and have
iron
fun.
and
Now you go home, get anxious, eat chia seeds, get on your app and work out why none of you are having sex.
No, I think that life should be not all about short-term pleasures, right? So, I mean, if you go out and get drunk, then you feel awful the next day, you're unproductive, you're not working on your goals, you just, getting quick dopamine hits because you're not fulfilled properly in your life.
You are such a good person and I'm such a bad person.
I'm a total, health freak. I don't drink at all.
Do you not?
No, I've never been drunk in my life. Completely teetotal.
That's a good thing, same as Donald Trump. Do you
freak.
do anything wrong? Bad? No?
No.
Brilliant. Well, listen, you're always welcome here. Don't forget, I'm going to the loo. I need a wee. I'll be back in 3.5. But what does STARMA stand for? 8722, there's a prize. What did you say STARMA stood for?
A vacuum.
Yeah. Listen, if you want advice on politics, chia seeds, how to date, how to care about a dog, she is the lady. She's amazing. Chloe Dobbs. She's back soon on Talk Drive.
to say it, Julia, we discussed this before. You know, we've got leaders in our democracies who don't know how to threaten and use force, and they don't understand the logic of deterrence. More importantly, they don't think like Russians. They think like Westerners. So they think, what would deter us? OK, we'll do that. Russians don't think like that. I was listening to a lecture by a Russian general, and you know I speak Russian, speaking to a staff course a while ago, and a general was asked by a student, you know, how are we going to solve Ukraine? And he simply said, we will throw corpses at it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back 6:30, we're live across the UK. Talk Drive until 7. Kev is here with Political Asylum. Is it Harry Cole at 10 o'clock tonight? It is. Harry Cole saves the West. Mike Graham's just been on. Yes. Right, listen. So I said, what does Starmer stand for? 87222. It's gone mad. Linda in Northampton, he stands for poppycock. What? Oh, yes. Jez, one word for Starmer, vacant, says Mark in Yeovil. Yeovil's a place. I've been spending an hour there. Deb says, we are in France. We have to speak French. The minimum they should speak is English. I see. What does Starmer stand for, says Phil? What does Starmer stand for? Because there are no seats. That was crap. Stick to your day job. Emma, Keir Starmer wet wipe, soggy, unstable. Instead of clearing up a mess, just smears it across the British people. Brilliant. Martin, honestly, Jez, I'm not overly keen on Nigel, but Reform as a party is the only way forward. I can't fully explain why. I just feel off with him. I will, though, be voting for Reform. Your opinion? Starmer is anti-English. David, he doesn't stand, he slithers. Lower than a snake's belly. Colette from Redditch, one word to describe Starmer, finished. Becky, Starmer stands for nothing. That's why he falls for everything. Starmer, says Paula in Warrington, he's a bloody turncoat. Starmer, says John from Carmarthen, is it? What's it doing, is it? He stands for hypocrisy and cruelty, recognising a Palestinian state so Hamas can repeat October the 7th over and over, and then wishing happy New Year to the Jewish community. In the words of the late, great James Whale, he offends me. The late, great James Whale would have loved that. I think that Starmer stands for anarchy. He is destroying our country, says Jules in Bristol. He's a chocolate fireguard, anonymous. Jezza, one word for Starmer, globalist, says Max in Warwickshire. Michelle Adams, the only thing Starmer stands for is Tony Blair. Michelle in Swanage. John in Penn. Now, you see, is that a joke? Look at that one. What does he stand for? Votes. John in Penistone? It's got penis tone on the end. Is that where he lives? Is there such a place, or is that a wind-up? Come on, Ryan, what do you reckon? Is there a place called Penis Tone or Penistone? I have no idea. Ronald Short, he said he stands for sod all, and I suspect you don't. Oh, there is a place called Penis Stone near Barnsley. Right, voice notes. What does Keir Starmer stand for? Louise, go! In your own time, Dave.
Keir Starmer stands for himself. He stands for himself first, foremost, before and after, during and every other time in between. He has just thrown the Jewish people under the bus by giving the UK, not the UK, Keir Starmer recognising Palestine as a state on Jewish New Year. What a kick in the what's-it.
Which one was that? That wasn't Louise. Why does it say 8 seconds when it was about a minute? Your fault, Ryan. Jack on Keir Starmer, go.
The only thing that Sir Keir Starmer stands for is President Trump when he's walking in the room to give him a telling off.
Well, that wasn't 27 seconds, was it, you see? You've got that wrong, Ryan. Now, you're making me look like an idiot here. Mike Graham's listening, thinking, no wonder breakfast is good, because you're crap, Carl. Right, how long's the Jocelyn that voice note for, Ryan? Because this one's got no time, you... 15, right, time this, because this will be bloody wrong. Jocelyn, go.
My words for Starmer,
a lily-livered coward. That's all he is. He's got no respect from anybody in this country. The sooner he's out, then we can all start celebrating when reform get in. Love the show. Bye.
That was 15 seconds. Can I just also, can you see if I can get Mike on the phone very quickly before the end of the show? Only because, don't look worried, only because I want his response to the Gen Z thing, because apparently Gen Z adults, grandparents and parents have more sex than the Gen Z group, because the younger crowd are more interested in fibramaxing, which is having chia seeds, chickpeas and prunes and an all-bran breakfast. We're out having sex, it seems. I'd love to know what Mike thinks. 25 to 7, very quickly. He's a legend, this man, by the way. There are correspondents who put themselves about, and there are correspondents who can be anything to anybody. He is the Keir Starmer of talk. Rupert Bell, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, yes, it is afternoon, actually, because I'm in New York at the Ryder Cup.
You can't have him on. That's totally hacked me off. Are you really? Are you?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Here are my inside the rope credentials.
No! I don't want to be me anymore. He's there. I got invited and I can't go.
There we go. And now you've got me to talk about the royal family. But anyway, never mind.
Let's talk very quickly about the royal family, if we can, my friend. Whilst we'd been on air, Sarah Ferguson at the weekend, outed by Daphne Barak, actually, in the Mail. And she was dropped earlier yesterday by Julia House, which is a charity. Further 5 in the last couple of hours, including the Teenage Cancer Trust. Many people saying they don't know what King Charles can do, but after seeing the Duke and Duchess of York turn up at that funeral last week for the Duchess of Kent, they think it's time that these two are literally cast aside. What are your thoughts, Belly?
Well, obviously she referred to Mandelson as her supreme friend.
No, not Mandelson, Epstein.
Well, Epstein, and then, of course, Mandelson last week referred to him as his best pal. So I'm afraid she's got these charities have every right to say this is not a good look, because one minute you're having a pop at him and replying to him and saying he's bad, and then immediately going behind the public persona and saying, well, I didn't really mean what I said, basically, and you've been really helpful to the family. Now, we think that means probably paying quite a lot of money to bail them out of some financial complication that they had. And so I'm afraid for Sarah Ferguson, it's the Epstein problem is just not going away, not only for the Duke of York, but for his ex-wife. Now, she is right in it, and I see particularly the charities that have pulled out. There's teenage charities, there are women's charities that she's been patron of, and you can fully understand why they've said this is not a good look for us to have her anywhere near the charity. But I'm afraid it's her own doing, and it's come to light, okay, a few years down the line, but it does just show how stupid both Prince Andrew was, and now it comes to light that she was as well in their dealings and their sort of possible fixation with Jeffrey Epstein.
I completely agree with you. And what frightens me, mate, is I don't think we'll ever know, but the tentacles that this man had into the lives of so many royals, presidents, politicians, famous people. You get a picture of a man who networked to a high degree. And I said it earlier on the show, just one wonders how many people across the world are shaking in their boots that they'll be next. But from their point of view, I don't know what the king is supposed to do. Kinsey was saying, what can he do? Strip him? He's not seen in public. I think them jumping in the other day wasn't a great look, but throw them out of Royal Lodge, send them into exile, I don't know. But they are an embarrassment. There is no doubt. Well, we're talking about embarrassments. I have to do this with you quickly. I wanted you to take Harry last week arriving, having his 54 minutes with the king. There's always been that belief in the royal household that he'll open his mouth with his awful wife. Very quickly, as he shot off to Ukraine, things started coming out. Oh, it's all about my dad. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And then at the weekend, out came reports in several papers that, he's the prodigal son. He's coming back. The king's upset with Prince William. Prince William doesn't do enough work, blah, 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 blah. Unless I'm wrong, living bloody proof that you cannot trust him or her by a mile, Belly.
You can't. What he should have done, nothing should have come out.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And he's painted it in this sort of sugary meeting where they were all hugging and having tears, and he wants to repair the relationship. But actually, the king has put the kibosh on his hopes of being a sort of half in, half out, because he has said, just like his mother said, you cannot be a half in, half out. Royal, what he can do is repair his relationship from a family perspective, come over for holidays, but don't expect to get any way back to doing sort of royal duties. Of course, it got clouded when he came over with the whale child and he was going to various charities, so it looked like a royal visit in all but name. So that's the problem. Harry's got every right to come here, but he must not expect to be anywhere near the royal family in official capacity. The king is right, and hopefully he will maintain that because Meghan and Harry have no ability to keep their mouth shut.
Completely agree. Before you go, 20-7, it's what, 20-2 in New York City. You're there at Bethpage Black, the most difficult golf course in America. Head of the Ryder Cup starts Friday. Luke Donald against Keegan Bradley. Only 4 times in history have the away team come and won. Our record not great. The miracle of Medina 12 years ago, the last time we won. Who do you think wins this weekend? I'm really strong on this.
I've been 2 of the away victories. I'm that old, Jeremy. I did 2004. I was in the Miracle of Medina, and I do think we have a really good chance here. And I think we have the team of prepared well. I don't think you can look at the American lineup and say, well, they're fearsome. Our team, I think, come in with a degree of confidence. We've got President Trump supposedly coming in on Friday to whip up the crowd here, presumably, because obviously golf is perceived as being part of the MAGA family. And obviously Trump is the big golf fan in his own right. And but look, he's got every right to come. But what they're worried about is the security and shenanigans that we saw when the US Open, when he turned up. He created a real headache for organisers. But I think it's going to be brilliant. But I'm hoping that Luke Donald's 12 men, true and fair, stuff it to the Americans.
I haven't ever wanted to say this before, but I wish I was you, Belly. I'll be watching on telly. You enjoy yourself and bring us a cat back. Rupert Bell, the legend, live there at Bethpage at a scene of the Ryder Cup starts Friday, talking about the royal family. Ahead of 7 o'clock, 2 promises. You'll get Sarge, John Lucas, the night news editor at The Sun, the man with a following. He'll be telling us what's in tomorrow's paper, and a surprise guest will tell me what he thinks of Keir Starmer. All that ahead of 7. We're coming back.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6:45, Kev at 7 o'clock. Very quickly, we say a massive good evening to the legend, Sarge John Lucas, night editor at The Sun. He's back, and hopefully today isn't going to make a faux pas like last week.
I can't rule it out.
When he called a girl called Jilly Jizzy. I'm just putting it out there. Now, tomorrow's paper, leading with Fergie, the news, the Epstein story over the weekend. Just for people who don't know this by now, she had apologised 10 years ago and said he was a vile paedophile. She wanted nothing over the weekend. The Mail launched this story from Daphne Barak, who was a friend of Sarah Ferguson's. There was email proof that a week or so after that, she sent him a gushing private one saying, I was put up to it. I love you. You're an amazing human being. Thanks for helping me out financially. When we came on air, she'd been dropped by one charity. 3 hours later, she'd been dropped by 6, including Teenager Cancer Trust. You've got this Fergie axed on the front.
That's right. So six charities now, as you say. A lot of these quite close to her heart. Prevent Breast Cancer and this Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, which, if you remember, that this poor girl, Natasha, who died from Pret sandwich allergy, and Fergie had come on board with that charity because she became friends with the family and attended the funeral. So it's sad for her, but you've got to remember what she was doing. I mean, Epstein, by this point, he'd already been convicted. He pleaded guilty for trafficking a 14-year-old girl, and Fergie had gone public and said, look, I'm terribly sorry about my association with this paedophile.
Taken in like many others was what she said before the weekend, showing that she'd actually, despite knowing that, sent him this email.
And we've now learned that she emailed him and called him a supreme friend and said, look, I didn't actually use the P word against you. It's all very grubby sounding, and she denies. The argument from her camp is that at this point she was under legal threat from Epstein, but I mean it doesn't wash. I don't believe
a word that she or her husband say anymore, and I think it's time for them to go. The Ghost of Xmas Farce. Ready for this? This is the sort of story I love about The Sun. A Christmas Carol play has been hit with a woke health warning that it features ghosts and themes of poverty.
Yeah, who would have believed it? One of the most famous stories about ghosts. If you're going to watch it, just beware, because it's got ghosts in it.
Shock horror.
Yeah, great, and it tackles issues around isolation, social responsibility, greed and death. So it says it might not be suitable for children under 7, but we all grew up with it. And it tells
the story of a transformation of miserly Ebenezer into a kind and sharing man.
And also, one of the best versions of this ever made was the Muppets one.
Absolutely.
And that's worked for kids okay, so I don't know what's wrong with the current crop, but yeah.
Silly tankers. British soldiers in Warrior armoured vehicles shot a Challenger 2 tank by mistake.
Yeah, well, this came out off the back of our Splash Today, which was, don't know if you saw it, a Special Forces training exercise went terribly wrong. They were using, one of the chaps used live ammunition instead of blanks and seriously injured this other guy. And what's going on, because it emerges that actually a very similar thing happened with a Warrior armoured vehicle shot a Challenger 2 tank by mistake on a training exercise. Luckily, no one was seriously injured in this one, but yeah, bizarre.
Not great. Have to hold
military stories.
And also, I don't want to ask you about the Gen Z. Line gentlemen, please pin back your logos. This is good for you, Jodie. A Weatherspoons has controversially scrapped the scrum at the bar and replaced it with a fair single-file queue after Gen Z drinkers couldn't grasp the classic huddle. The change to branch in Studley Quays, South East London, has sparked furious reaction from the Brit boozer chain's regulars.
Well, you're talking about they can't have sex, and maybe part of that problem is they don't know how to behave in the pub properly.
No.
Well, I'm a millennial.
Right. So so what's a millennial? You're getting more sex than anybody.
Well, that's what I read. I read about that in the paper.
So Gen Z, Gen Zers are having it 0.7 times a week, which means you almost get there, but you don't. Grandparents at my age, we're getting it 0.9 times a week, which means we almost get there and then we stop because we can't see it through. Gen 44 to 60, they're getting it 1.2 times a week. But you lot, what are you, a millennial? You're getting it 1.5 times a week, Jay. Is that true?
Well,
No, I mean the research, not you. Look at Jodie; she's absolutely fascinated by this story. Get that out of your mouth. What?
But the point is that
he's gonna go.
They're struggling to queue up at the bar. They're struggling to huddle around the bar and get served.
Yeah.
So pubs are now having to bring in this rule of you've got to queue at the bar because they're worried about.
I like the way you brought that away from how much.
And so this happened at Wetherspoons in Surrey Quays and caused a lot of controversy. We sent a report.
Isn't it? What's the matter with these people?
Well, it's because they haven't learnt the pub etiquette. So they're standing at the bar.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get attention. We know, as slightly older men, when the staff come home and say, "Who's next?" You'll say, "Oh, it's this chap, this chap." They can't do that. Their brains apparently don't work that way. So they have to stand in this queue.
They get anxious.
It's Gen Z. Well, that's what it's being blamed.
We love it. We love the sun. We love you as well, Sarge. You here tomorrow?
Yes.
Good man. He got through today without a third power, refusing to ask questions about his sex life. By the sun tomorrow. It's brilliant. 10 to 7.
I hate to say it, Julia, we discussed this before. We've got leaders in our democracies who don't know how to threaten and use force, and they don't understand the logic of deterrence. More importantly, they don't think like Russians. They think like Westerners.
Yeah.
So they think, what would deter us? OK, we'll do that. Russians don't think like that. I was listening to a lecture by a Russian general, and I speak Russian, speaking to a staff course a while ago, and a general was asked by a student, how are we going to solve Ukraine? And he simply said, we will throw corpses at it.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
6 minutes to 7. There's only one person to ask when you're talking about a Gen Z survey into young kids. Mike Graham, good evening.
Evening.
How are you, son?
Very well, thank you.
I want you to know this, right? This worries me. Gen Z adults have sex less often than their parents and even their grandparents. Gen Zers who are frightened of queuing up at a bar, this is 18 to 26. They only do it 0.7 times a week.
I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
I don't know what 0.7 means, Mikey. What does that mean?
I do. Do you remember that song Paradise by the Dashboard Light by Meatloaf? If you listen to that song, it explains everything. And point 7 is pretty much getting to what they used to call third base.
Now, millennials, 26 to 44, this is Jodie. She says she's at it like a rabbit the whole time. They're 1.4 times a week. Don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Then your parents, 44 to 60, so this is me, 62 times, 1.2 times a week. And then
that's very good for you.
It's not bad. And then your age, I mean, I'm really a baby boomers. Do you know you're a baby boomer?
That's me.
Yeah. You're doing it 0.9 times a week, which probably means you're almost there, and then it all goes wrong.
What happens if you're doing it with a millennial or somebody from Gen Z? Then does that mix up the numbers? I don't know.
Jez, who conducted that bloody survey? Me and the missus are Gen Z, and we do it every day without fail, sometimes 4 times a day. That's from Darren and Naomi in Cumbria.
Well, they must be unemployed.
Well, they'll be out the country. Oh, no, never mind. How are you, my friend? Are you good?
Yeah, very well indeed. Just doing a little cooking, you know, having a glass of wine. All's well.
What are you cooking? What are you cooking?
I'm making some goulash this evening with mashed potatoes and some broccoli.
I love this. I love the fact you're doing that. Now, listen, I just said as well, there's a few tickets left. They've extended at the back of the theatre. We're going to do a promo tomorrow morning.
We're going down there, yeah. I'll be able to show you the delights of the theatre where Terry Wogan used to film his show.
I know, it's Shepherd's Bush Empire in Shepherd's Bush, strange enough, in London. And we've got a few tickets left, and we'll give details. Ticketmaster...
No, it's not far from ITV, is it?
Where?
It's not far from ITV, down the road.
What's IT?
The place where they're having to reshape everything and, you know, move everything around.
Yes, ITV. Have you noticed, actually, Kev O'Sullivan's walked in, and this is a great man as a TV critic to answer this. I saw a clip today that ITV have admitted defeat by September the 22nd with their schedules. Their Saturday night schedule, nothing is going to be live going forward because the audience figures are so bad. Did you hear that, Kev?
I did. ITV in trouble, BBC in trouble. The biggest show in Britain, Strictly Come Dancing, 5.2 million on Saturday night. Scheduled terrestrial television is dying, so you two bring us live entertainment.
It's true, actually, Mikey, as well. Live television is on its arse, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. Well, you know, ITV spend too much money on people who aren't really good at what they do. That's the problem, you know?
Well,
you know,
I think it's gone downhill in the last 6 years, but I could be biased.
I would say so.
He's having goulash and mashed potato and a glass of red wine. You've got to work for the next 3 hours, son.
Yeah, well, yes, I have. I won't be able to have goulash and red wine. Enjoy, Mike. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Mikey, back in the morning, 6 o'clock.
Yeah. See you then. Got no idea what's on.
What's on the show?
No idea.
Good man. Thanks a lot. Take care, MG Ledge. Kev, how are you, son?
I'm all right, mate, yeah.
Apparently the tubes are all buggered, is that right?
So I hear, but I just about made it in. They'll no doubt be screwed up when I go home. Right, obviously we've been looking at Nigel Farage's extraordinary... But he's the only leading politician in this country who is confronting the coming horror, the tsunami of the Boris wave. 3.8 million illegal or migrants about to receive full benefits.
Interesting what Benedict Spence said. He said, I've not been the biggest fan of reform. This is what he said today. But Farage is the first politician to have the cojones to stand up and say, this might not be popular with all of you, but I've got my ear to what people are genuinely thinking, and this is what I'm going to do. Is that not what we need? Vision, Kev.
But this, absolutely. But this is a coming storm. This is a gathering storm with 3.8 million people will soon qualify for full benefits. That will bankrupt this country. The reason for this is this ludicrous indefinite leave to remain system, whereby if you get to this country, if you manage somehow to stick around for 5 years, we just wave you through, we nod you through, we let you stay here for the rest of your life.
While screwing our own people.
And this is all down to Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson did this, and Nigel Farage, as I say, he is the first politician to confront this. None of the others have got the guts to face this down.
Did you very quickly, did you see what Starmer said on X? Have you had that? I must leave
What you mean, the New Year?
Have you seen this?
Greeting. It's absolutely disgusting.
This sacred moment invites us to pause to consider the era by, I do so with a heavy heart with the hostages, but when anti-Semitism and intolerance persist, let me be clear, we stand shoulder to shoulder, says Keir Starmer on X today, with the Jewish community. This is after recognising a Palestinian state and saying basically to the mass terrorists, it's fine, everything's OK.
Not forgetting, of course, his best wishes on Rosh Hashanah.